Hi, everybody. I think we're on air. This is the Prince of Queens live stream channel. In case people don't know, I believe most people probably would have a sense of that because I don't really have that many subscribers on my live stream channel. So you would probably have to come here because you were aware of what you were watching. Um, I am here today with a young man named Taylor, who I encountered on Twitter. Probably a week or two ago. I don't really remember because of the fact that there was some young woman who's a YouTuber who is who's what I would call an SJW. She seems kind of very, very SJW-y. And she was trying to talk shit about one of my videos. And she didn't actually link my video. She took a screen capture of the video title and was trying to talk shit about my video. And then I knew instantly that she hadn't actually watched the video. Like it was very, very obvious that she hadn't watched it, because if she had watched it, her tweet would have been different. I don't want to get into what it was. It's too long to explain. But like, she made it very obvious that she hadn't actually watched the video. And so I said, you didn't watch that, did you? And she was like, no, and I don't want to. And I was like, well, you probably shouldn't talk shit about my video if you haven't actually watched it. And then she just kept doubling down and, insulting me. And then you kind of showed up, and this guy Taylor that I'm talking to. And
Yeah.
what?
I said, "What up?"
Yeah, yeah. You came in the Twitter comment thread, and you actually tagged me, I think, because prior to you tagging me, I didn't even know that she was tweeting about me. Like, I had no idea this conversation was happening. And you said, "Isn't Prince of Queens the guy that was trying to turn black men against feminists?" I
Yeah,
think
I think I said something like that.
yeah, that's what you said. And I said, yes, absolutely. That's absolutely something I would say. Black men are the last people that should be feminists unless they want to go to prison for looking at a white woman the wrong way when they're delivering food to her on a university campus. And by the way, when I say that, I don't mean that all black men deliver food for a living. What I mean is that feminism is not going to long term benefit the black community at all. I don't believe in any way. I think I wish we can talk about that stuff later. And it certainly is not going to help young men on college campuses, black or any other skin color. Young men only compose about 40% of university enrollment anyway. Um,
That's a little low.
yeah, it's a little low. And it's been lower than 50% since late last century. So this is a problem that's already has been there for a long time. And feminists, um, they pretend that it doesn't count, or that they're working on it or something, but it's only gotten worse since and feminism has only become more popular. And there's still affirmative action and scholarships for women, endless, like all sorts of them. So there's that, and then there's the fact that feminists are on university campuses. You can get basically convicted without a trial. You can get expelled, you can get in trouble for misconduct between a man and a woman. So when I said that, when I said black men should not be feminists, the black men are the last people who need feminists, unless you want to go to prison for looking wrong at a white woman on a university campus when you're delivering food to her. I really meant that in a specific way. I wasn't just talking shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. Like, I mean, if you look at history. I come from the South, so
Mm-hmm.
uh, there's a lot of stories about lynching when it came to black men, uh, you know, either being accused of sexually assaulting or raping a white woman, whether it's true or not. I've noticed that the relationship between, you know, black men and white women have not particularly been great. And I feel like the way, I feel like the way that universities handle sexual assault and rape accusations is very lopsided.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is. And it was very specifically implemented by feminists. Um, it, it came from Title IX. Title IX is a wacky feminist organization that, believes all of the hardcore true believer feminist things. Um, and it's very weird, and it's a shame. Um, but we should get back to the more general conversation about feminism later. I sort of want to give the backstory about how we started talking a little bit more because um that girl who is the YouTuber, are you do you watch her channel and follow her on Twitter? Is that
I follow her on Twitter. I wasn't aware that she had a channel until y'all started sparring with each other. Um, I tend to follow people who um, are associated with other people I already follow. So like,
okay?
and who are ideologically similar to me.
Okay. So she um she was trying to say that, oh, well, feminists do care about black men. It's called intersectionality. Which, by the way, my opinion about intersectionality is generally just code word for white women that want everybody to like them. And it's contagious. It's caught on to some black women and even some black men, but that's, at this point, it didn't start. It actually came originally from black female feminists in like the late in probably the 70s or so.
Yes, sir.
But now at this point, it's mostly just like intersectionality. We care about everybody, but we're still going to call it feminism for some reason, And it's like, okay, you just want everyone to like you. Let's just be honest. Um, so she tried to talk about intersectionality, and I was like, okay, yeah, if you care about him so much, um, like you know that black men statistically are more likely to be homeless, more likely to be the victims of violence, more likely to be falsely incarcerated, and serving about 6 times as long of the sentence as a female, more likely to be unemployed. List goes on. You know all this stuff. Um, are you trying to help that? And she was like, of course. And I was like, yeah, but would you still say that black men have male privilege? She didn't get back. She didn't say anything.
That's unfortunate because I feel like the whole privilege thing can be disputed depending on the person or situation. You know, um, I'm not sure if I'm making quite sense, but when it comes to like intersectionality, primarily when I hear that at my school, at my university, um, it's mostly referring to the LGBT community. We don't, even though my school's like super lefty, at least the student body is super lefty. Um, we don't really comment much on race, and usually when it is, it's usually that it's usually it feels sort of tokenizing, like
Mm. Is it mostly white?
um my school or the people who are saying who
The
are
school.
the school. I think it does have a white majority, but it's not like really white.
Uh-huh.
It's just there's more. It's a diverse school. Um, it's not that big. I mean, it's not a huge school, but it's pretty diverse. Um, I will say because of I will say that I'm like in out of my four classes, three of them, I'm the only black person in the class, and that's the first time that's happened since I've been here.
Hmm. Okay. Well, so after it got to that point, I felt that it was kind of an interesting moment because you said that because I was trying to like appeal to not just your own self-interest, but to the interests of your demographics as both a black male and then also a gay male, because I saw it said that you were gay on your profile, and I'm a gay male, and so I was like, well, my opinions about these issues are very complicated. I talk about them a lot in my videos. You should maybe check out my videos. I don't know if you did, but I figured that eventually we. Oh, and the other thing that you said about yourself, which I found interesting, was that you used to be more of an anti-SJW.
Yeah, I did. Um, like I went through a sharp right wing phase for about a year and a half.
Hmm.
That
Wait, can I ask you how old you are?
20. I just turned 20 about a few days ago. So
Oh, okay. Happy birthday. I actually am
thanks.
turning 36 on Friday.
Oh, that's cool. Well, happy birthday.
Thanks. So I um how long were you okay, were your family was your family left wing?
Um, I wouldn't consider them left wing. They're liberals. At least my parents are. My grandparents are conservative Democrats.
Okay.
But but
Conservative Democrats, like, so they vote Democratic, but like people at your school would probably call them some sort of like neoliberal conservatives or something.
um, they're a product of their time. I should say that they're definitely they're I think the reason why they don't vote Republican is because they just don't trust the Republican establishment. They think that they're not going to do what they say. But they do vote Republican when they do trust a candidate. They just tend to be Democrats. My parents are both non, they're both independent in terms of party, but I would consider them liberals, like in the sense that they support capitalism, but they're not super free market. They're against the whole corporatist thing going on. They they generally support most progressive social movements, except for maybe like the LGBT. That's when they're Christian, so that's against their morals.
Hmm. Okay.
But
Um, so then you became right wing. When was that?
um, the halfway through my senior year of high school and through um, the entirety of my freshman year of college and through this past summer. Like through this past summer, I had a sharp transitioning from right wing to centrist or liberal to whatever the fuck I am now.
Okay. Well, can I ask you, were you in the closet when you were right wing, or were you out of the closet?
I was out. I've been out since freshman year of. I've been out since freshman year of high school.
Okay.
Um, I've been out to parts of my family since junior and senior year of high school. But I was out as a right winger, which was part of the novelty that people use me for. And like they never heard of a black gay conservative or black gay, libertarian before. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it is funny how people on the right wing, or people who are right wing and want to think of somebody as the one sort of right wing, like I get just today on Twitter, people who were against me were calling me right wing, and then I'm like, well, I'm actually not right wing. I'm not a conservative, really. Um, and then they were like, well, yeah, but you pander, you try to convince them that you're cool and blah blah blah. And it's like, I can understand why they would say that, because there is uh um when people want a token, and this happens with both left-wing people and right-wing people, when they want, when they don't have a gay guy, or they don't have a black guy, or they don't have a black gay guy around, uh they're going to suck up to you because they want you to be around. And it is kind of a weird thing. And then but they did you find that they would expect you to be a certain way, and then they would get mad if you weren't?
Uh, Not so much in the beginning because they're trying so hard not to. They're trying so hard to, own the SJWs by not appearing racist, that they sort of catered to me more. But then after President Trump's inauguration, that's when people started to change.
Mm,
Either I don't. Part of me doesn't. Part of me is not sure whether I changed and didn't realize it, or if they changed. But whichever happened, I started noticing that I felt like I was being used. I felt like that people didn't really respect me,
mm.
and you know, also people wouldn't stand up to actual racists. In fact, they would befriend actual racists.
Mhm.
While and I would just be like, "What the hell?" I'd just be like,
Yeah, 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 and yeah, and the same with legit homophobia.
yeah,
Like, it's like, oh, well, just because I didn't get pissed off when you would call people, like, I would be around a group of friends and they call each other faggots as a joke, like to bust each other's balls, like just to be the way that you would insult your friends. And
mhm.
I'm going to be fine with that. Like, I'm not going to tell them not to do that, because I know that they're not that they're just fucking around, and that but then they start hanging out with some guy who, like, legitimately does not like gay people. And you can tell, because you can always tell when someone does not like gay people. And then that guy starts talking shit about faggots. And and then and then and then after you hang out with that guy, you tell him, you're like, hey, I don't know if I like that guy. And he's like, oh no, he's a cool guy. And it's like, yeah, but I don't know if I like that guy. He seemed like he legitimately hates gay guys. And then they invite him around again. And it's like, I thought I told you that I don't want to be around that dude. Like, he actually hates people like me. Like, it's like they don't get it.
Yeah. A lot of my friendships started falling apart they when they it like for like some of them were friends with a lot of my anti-SJW and conservative friends back then were buddies with the white nationalists. And it bugged me, but I didn't want to be that guy that tried to make them choose between me and them, because I was always scared they would choose him over me. And then another white nationalist uh, dude showed up, and they became friends, and it bugged me further. Now the second white nationalist guy, at first he wasn't really as bad as I thought he was, but I realized soon enough. In fact, I realized after Charlottesville happened that he he was just putting on a show. He's let the mask slip a couple times with me. in how he in the things that he would say. But my friendship started to deteriorate when my friends started getting all buddy buddy with white nationalists and then accusing me of being anti-free speech for not being comfortable with a person who wants to, remove non-whites from America.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Oh, they fucking the way the antis get so kind of like puritanical and tribalistic about certain things. Like one of those is free speech. They like, okay, I am in favor of free speech. I want people to be able to say the things that they want to say. There are limits. There definitely are limits, but at the same time, I will advise people to say certain things. For example, I consider myself a non-racist. I don't consider myself racist, and I don't want people to think I'm a racist. Therefore, one of the things that I do as an individual, so that people don't think I'm a racist, is I refuse to say the term person of color. I think it's a racist term. If you want to talk about a black person, you can say that they're a black person. If you want to talk about a mixed person, you could say that they're a mixed person, or you could just say they're a racial minority. I don't think it's cool to call people colored, especially when you could mean anybody from Japanese to Nigerian. I think that that's just really racist to lump everybody in together in that way, and everybody is a color. It's not like there's anybody who's see-through. So that's just one thing that I personally choose to do, and I advise other people to not use the term person of color. Now, I'm not going to be offended if they do it, and I certainly wouldn't try to get them banned on social media and try to get there to be some sort of rule made for that. But that is my personal interpretation of the phrase. I think it's a racist term. So I advise people that. Now, I made a video about that, and I have a whole bunch of fans that are fans. Why do I say that? Audience members, people who watch my videos, and a lot of them are very like anti-SJWs, and a lot of them they get very, very into the free speech thing, and they were like, I thought you were in favor of free speech. Now you're telling people how to talk. And I was like, oh, shut the fuck up.
For me, I'm like, my thing is, I don't think that things like, protesting or deplatforming is necessarily an attack on free speech, or even just advising people how you want to be taught.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, I gotta stop you just real quick.
Mm-hmm.
How is deplatforming not a violation of free speech?
You're not getting the government involved. It's pretty much, when it comes to like deplatforming, it's pretty much free speech fighting itself. You have one person exercising his speech, his or her speech, and then you have another person who does not want to hear what they have to say, so they protest and put pressure on the institution that the other individual is speaking in, and if the first person gets deplatformed, I don't necessarily consider that a violation of free speech. It's not like you're getting the police to come in and arrest them for saying something stupid,
Okay. There is an actual term for that phenomenon. And it's the phenomenon. Sorry, I'm having so much problems saying that word. That is called the heckler's veto. That means that basically, if that's the rules that you're allowing, is something people can be deplatformed by protesters, then what you're saying is that whoever makes the most noise always gets to hear their ideas, and also that anybody that gets protested will no longer get to speak. and therefore potentially nobody would get to speak. I mean, what's to stop a bunch of people? Angela Davis is going to be speaking in San Francisco um, in a week or two. And that's a rare thing. You know, she doesn't do speaking engagements often. So there's thousands of people that are interested in going to this event. There's probably not that much room there, but um, if people from outside of San Francisco, like if there were people who were really, really against intersectional feminists and revolutionary feminist communist type people or whatever who live outside of San Francisco felt like they could get her shut down by coming in and protesting, they might do that, right? And you wouldn't want them to do that, would you?
I wouldn't want them to do that, but I'm not gonna. I wouldn't necessarily be that upset because
Are you serious? You wouldn't be upset if a bunch of like redneck ass Californians came and shut down an Angela Davis speaking event in San Francisco? That wouldn't seem a little bit fucked up.
a little bit, but
Because I would be, and I don't even like her.
I mean, like for me, it's like if you're gonna protest, at least have a good reason to protest. But but I'm not gonna be too upset if the institution backs out of giving her a speaking engagement because they were uh, because they were concerned about the protests, right? I'm not going to be too upset, especially since some protests can raise safety hazards. But I'm not gonna call them enemies of free speech. It's when they start it's when they start getting the government involved is when I really would call them an enemy of free speech.
Okay. It's just, the whole like heckler's veto thing, it has to do with the reason why we can't, why people don't negotiate with terrorists, or why, why, yeah, why you don't negotiate with terrorists. Like, do you know, can you state clearly why you don't negotiate with terrorists?
Yeah, well, you give them legitimacy.
No, that's not really it. It's more than that. I bet you
Well,
know it. I bet you can think of it.
I mean, I wouldn't. The reason I would negotiate with terrorists is because it means giving them some sort of legitimacy. It means that's the only reason I would. That's pretty much the reason I wouldn't negotiate with them.
Okay. Well, that's one way of putting it, but I think that, and maybe this is what you meant, but what's a little bit more important is that if you give them the impression that you are going to respond to their terrorism by giving them their demands, then they're going to keep asking for shit. It's why, um, there's those like super crackheady bums that hang out by the supermarket that you go to, and you felt bad for him the one time, and so you gave him $1, but then he's there every time, and he always thinks you're gonna give him $1, and you're like, oh shit, why did I give him $1 that one time, right?
So you're talking about like enabling.
Yeah, kind of, but it's a little bit worse with terrorists, because if you make people think that they can intimidate you into obedience, um, then they're going to keep doing it. So if a bunch of people think that they can shut down a speaking event, and okay, and the government, it is government mandated. If it's a public university, if it's a university that gets funding from the government and the students pay for it, the university is obligated to host the speaking event. It's in the Constitution. It's part of free speech. So they they really can't stop this. They can try to charge for extra security, which is one of the things that they have tried to do to shut down Milo and other such things. They tried to do that to Ben Shapiro, but Ben Shapiro is actually a lawyer. He handled he graduated from Harvard Law, so there was no way that they were going to shut down Ben Shapiro's event. He was going to, you know, but if those students had successfully shut down, no, if the protesters in Berkeley had repeatedly shut down every conservative speaker that they tried to shut down, well, they would consider that a victory, right? They'd be pretty stoked, right? So what are they going to do next? I mean, they feel so powerful. What else do they want? Well, they would go try to get it, wouldn't they?
Sure. It really depends on what they want. Like,
Well, what do you think that they want?
I don't know. There's a lot of sectarian conflict in the left. I know you have a lot. I know there's a lot of. I know you have, your regular progressives who they're really protesting people spreading hateful ideas. They'll sometimes they I don't. I'll put it this way: people protesting, Ben Shapiro, I feel is a waste of time. But people protesting, Richard Spencer, that is, in my opinion, a worthy cause to protest. But or protest.
Wait, just point of clarification. When you say protest, do you mean protesting like peacefully or like trying to get him shut down? Because there's a difference between like standing outside with a sign saying this man spews hatred, or trying to break the windows and barricade the doors so that people can't get in.
Well, you can't. Well, you can definitely shut down an event without resorting to vandalism. But
Sure, but like, okay, but is the goal of this protest to actually get it shut down, or is the goal to simply protest?
well, in my hypothetical, it's simply to protest.
Okay, so I have no problem with that,
Okay.
and and actually most conservatives aren't against that at all, and you know that. You used to be a conservative.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, I wouldn't be against people protesting Richard Spencer. I wouldn't say that they should try to get him shut down. And if I don't think that people should try to get anyone necessarily shut down. Um, the only people, no, I can't think of a single person that I would shut down. And the only reason why is that there's some people who are like actually mentally ill. But I think that, they just wouldn't really get much of an audience. Richard Spencer is unfortunate because, he does have an audience. I don't really know why.
Actually, you can actually figuring out why people, drift towards alt-right circles is something I've been trying to contemplate for a long time. But so I'm not sure if I can really answer that, but I do know that a lot of I know a lot of it is just falling down a rabbit hole. It doesn't happen instantly. You don't go from, an apolitical person or a centrist to a Nazi in a couple of weeks. That shit takes time. And I noticed, I had friends who identified as, libertarians who decided, oh, I'm going to be allies with a fascist, a self-identified fascist. I was like, how does that work? It's like the opposite of what you want.
Yeah.
But I find that, oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think a lot of these people don't really know what they want. I think that a lot of these people, they aren't drawn to libertarianism because they're drawn to the libertarianism. They're drawn to the other people that they met that identify as libertarians. Like when I was like 14, I decided I wanted to be a punk rocker because I liked the punk rock kids at my school because I thought that they were funny and they liked me for some reason. Like they wanted to be my friend. And so I started dressing like them. And then I realized I didn't like punk rock music. You know, like I was like, wait, I don't like this music. So sorry, keep going.
But I think one thing is I think in part of, I think I think one thing that is probably pushing people farther right is that they're under this assumption that the left is the establishment, which is not correct.
You don't think that's
And
correct?
no, I don't. I don't think they've been an establishment for a long time.
Hmm.
Even under even under President Obama, we still had a conservative Congress for most of his 2 terms. And also, I'm one of those people that do not consider the Democrats left. I don't consider liberals leftists. In fact, most liberal ideologies are actually right wing, except for social liberalism.
Huh.
Social liberalism is a centrist ideology,
Wait,
though.
so when you say that for most of Obama's, um, because as I remember Obama's terms, I thought that it didn't become a Republican majority until the 2014 midterms, is what I remember.
I think the 2010 midterms also flipped the House and the Senate, but or something like that. I have to look it up, but I know it flipped one. I know one of the houses flipped in 2010,
Mm,
and I also know that he got blocked a lot by
yeah,
Congress.
yeah, yeah. That did happen. Um, I it just it yeah, it is hard to say. Like I don't okay, so I consider um the the most predominant cultural establishment at the moment, but it wasn't as but and I say this culturally. I don't say this necessarily so much in government, um though it is quite prominent in government. I think that feminism is itself um a a really really big force in the Western world, and it's not just in the United States, but it's in the just all Western universities. It's Canada, it's Western Europe, and it's universities, it's media companies, and it's this whole notion of feminism is also strongly tied to and very strongly tied to extreme Marxism. It's kind of I'm starting to learn more and more about the history of the Communist Party in the United States and the how feminism evolved. And it turns out that our version of feminism, that the Western version of feminism that we have today, is largely built upon female communist women who felt like the Communist Party in the United States was too male dominated. And from what it sounds like, but I'm still researching this, I have a book that I'm reading that I have been forgetting to actually really get through, Um, from what it sounds like, they're sort of saying that the past communism, like the Soviet Union and Red China, those ended up in disaster. Uh, but maybe the reason why was because men were in charge. So this time we're going to put women in charge and we're going to call it feminism. And
Oh,
that's
That's a particular ideology within feminism, I think, called socialist feminism, but I could be wrong about it.
Mm.
Uh, I do. What would you consider Marxism to be precisely? Like, how would you define it?
What I would define Marxism as would be well, so Marx wrote a lot, and he wrote, the Communist Manifesto is sort of the cornerstone of what it would be. And the Communist Manifesto has been interpreted many, many different ways by many different people. The general principle is equality of outcome and sharing resources. Uh, a governmental system where people are sharing resources. But the thing is that so many people have so many different ideas of how that could work. And some people think that it could happen without a government, which is the, anarcho-communists. And some people believe that government is necessary, and some people believe that we could have a sort of communism, like there's all these varying degrees of what it is. And I would say that um
You'll find that leftism, that Marxism itself is full of extremely diverse ideologies. A lot of times we fight
yeah, well, that's
with
what
each
I'm
other a
saying.
lot. But Marxism is really an analysis on class relations and social conflict throughout history, and possible options for what can come about it.
Well,
It
okay, but you okay, I got to stop you there. You are trying to define a nebulous term. Marxism is not a descriptive. Well, we could. I was using a descriptive definition of what I would use to describe Marxism as. What you are doing is what's sounding like a prescriptive definition of a word. Do you know the difference between a prescriptive definition and a descriptive definition?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to redefine it just for the sake of clarity. A prescriptive definition would be to say this thing is what it's like. Somebody told me this, or this is what I want it to be, or this is what Marx felt that it was. If Marx were alive, he would say that his philosophy was this, and you're defining it in those terms, right? And that's fine. I'm sure there's lots of people who agree with you, but as you said yourself, there are many different countering viewpoints within the left and leftism. Uh, and when I give my definition of Marxism, I'm describing all of the different things that I think are similar enough to Marxism. And so I'm describing all of those things and how they sort of pan out in practice. Because I'm sure if we talk to all of these different people who consider themselves Marxist, they would give a slightly different definition of what you are giving. So, like there's no one true definition of Marxism. But I think that the one thing that we can all agree that it has in common is this wealth redistribution kind of mentality, right?
Sort of.
Okay,
Um,
sorry. No, give your definition again. I will shut up.
well, I'll put it this way. Um, I'll put it this way. When it comes to Marxism, is really just a theory describing, it's really just a theory on history. Meanwhile, the ideologies that spring up from Marxism, that's what people usually describe as, redistribution of wealth and seizure of the means of production, and you know one thing that I would really appreciate people would do is to learn a bit more about each of the major ideologies within the left before they, because last thing we want is for people to, mix up the ideologies. Like Do you know the difference between a Marxist Leninist and a social democrat?
Let me think for a second. A Marxist Leninist and a social democrat. Well, um, I imagine it would depend upon who you were talking to. Uh, Lenin was very idealistic, and he was the person who sort of formed the Soviet Union, and he died very young, and he was sort of replaced by Stalin. And I can't say I know enough about what made Lenin particularly special enough for a word to be called to be to be named after him. So what would you say was special enough about Lenin that you would call someone a Leninist if they?
Well, Marxist Leninist is someone who subscribes to the ideologies of the Soviet Union. They typically believe in state control of the means of production. Usually, um, they're Marxism Leninism is the ideology most people think of when they think of socialism or communism.
Okay.
Now you have ideologies like social democracy, which is which is often categorized as socialist, but but it's actually it's actually more like capitalism with a friendly face. It's capitalism with social programs. You know, think of the Scandinavian countries. They're considered social democracies, but people would look. But you have a lot of Americans who see the social democracies in Scandinavia and be like, wow, those are socialist countries. But no, that they're very different. And then you have AMCOMs my who are you know some of the best and worst people at the same time. Um, they believe that we should go straight from the society that we're in to communism, which is the state of it's a stateless society with where the means of production is collectively owned, essentially. And they reject the concept of government because government is inherently oppressive to them.
Yeah. So you, it's funny you bring those people up. You have on your Twitter bio that you're Antifa,
Yeah.
but you didn't sound like you identify as an ANCOM.
I don't. Anti uh, Antifa is an ideology. Um, it's sometimes looked at as an organization or a group, but primarily it's an ideology. It's the position of being against fascism, and with something so broad and nebulous like that, you'll
Yeah,
have a whole.
that's beyond broad. That's kind of like saying an ideology based around people who like to eat and drink.
I mean, Antifa is literally just a one thing. Okay, one thing that leftists like to do is make abbreviations for their ideologies. They'll refer to social democrats as soc dems. They'll refer to libertarian socialists as lib socialists. So they'll refer to anti-fascists as antifas.
Mhm.
And so it's really a position. It's a broad position that encompasses many different types of people, but it's united.
So would you say that I'm an Antifa?
Are you against fascism?
Yes.
Then I would consider you, yeah.
Well,
But
please don't ever tell anyone that I'm Antifa because I'm not, and I'm very much against the people who call themselves Antifa.
okay, why is that?
Um, well, I'm not sure if you watch YouTube much.
But like, okay, so if you're talking about like, if you're talking
Also, I've known some of these people. I've literally known a number of people who got mixed up in it, and uh, they're liars. They lie. I went to this is just one example. Um, I went to the Milo Yiannopoulos lecture that was on inauguration night in Seattle, Washington. And I went because I was curious. I wanted to get video footage and upload it to my YouTube channel. I did not vote for Trump. I have mixed feelings about Milo. I think that what he says about feminism is totally right, and when he criticizes the left, it's totally right. I'm not a Catholic. I'm not. I don't. I wouldn't choose to be heterosexual if I could, like he says. There's plenty of things that bug me about him.
I have a lot to say about him, but go on.
Yeah. So I was not, but I was there. I was there mainly because I wanted to get footage. I wanted to show up, and I tried to get in and video record it, and I wanted to ask a question. I had a little question that I was thinking I was going to ask, and we get there, and there is over 100 people with doing the black bloc thing. And they are Antifa because I knew one of them personally. She was on my Facebook friend list, and she was somebody that would frequently post Antifa things. And she was with the whole like black bloc crew, and they were trying to physically assault people and physically block their entrance. They were throwing paint packages on people and starting fights. People were just trying to get in, and it ended up getting bad, and eventually somebody got shot.
Oh, I heard about that one.
Yeah. Now
an Antifa guy got shot.
Yeah, I was there, right?
Yeah.
And the Antifa people were starting it, right? I was there. I witnessed it with my own eyes. They were being hostile to me. They weren't being entirely hostile to me largely because I looked like them, because I was wearing like a dark brown leather jacket that was about waist high, and I was wearing some kind of tight dark pants, and had like I look more like I would be one of them than a Trump supporter, you know what I mean? And also I was talking to the one girl, and we were having a fairly reasonable conversation. Even though she was wacky, like she was lying, she was saying shit. I was like, well, why are you trying to shut down this protest? Like, why are you trying to stop people from coming to this? And she was like, well, because he's a Nazi recruiter. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not. She was like, yes, he came here last night and was putting up Nazi posters on the university campus. She said that, and it was like, that's just not true. He wasn't even here last night. That's just not even true. And so she was saying that, and then I saw the violence firsthand. And then after it happened, all of the Antifa people started telling everybody that the Trump supporters were the ones that instigated all the violence. And that was the rumors that were going around on Facebook. And there wasn't a whole lot of good footage from it, but they were just lying. Like I saw like Antifa people lying. And furthermore, they're really homophobic, it turns out, which I'm actually not really very surprised, because a lot of them are communists, and communism doesn't have a good track record for being very welcoming to gay guys. I think because gay guys are naturally not super apt to sacrifice themselves for the collective.
I don't think that homophobia within communist circles is a result of communism itself, but more so a cultural thing. A lot of the communists and socialists I know here in the United States aren't homophobic at all. So I'm actually very surprised that you encountered homophobia from these Antifa people.
Well, this is what happened. Um,
What they say,
it, it, when as soon as I started either questioning, when they started talking about punch a Nazi, and I was like, okay, well, who's a Nazi? Well, everyone, like they're accusing everyone of being a Nazi, and it was like, okay, so you're basically saying who's a Nazi? Everyone's a Nazi. What should we do to Nazis? Punch them all. They're all Nazis, and that's what they were, and so once I was like trying to, talk some sense into some people that I knew. And this happened at least 3 or 4 times with straight guys that I know, straight white guys that I know, that I've known for a long time, that I've known for over a decade. They were talking about punch Nazi, and I was like, yeah, but that's not gonna end. That's not gonna end well for anyone. If you're gonna, if that's your mentality, that's not gonna be productive. That's gonna end up with, obviously, whoever you punch is gonna get hurt, but you're gonna get hurt too. Like if you start with that shit, and that's a pretty obvious point, right?
I mean, my only problem with the whole punch Nazis thing is that one, there's a lot of people who don't know who's, alt right and who's not alt right. And then two, you also, a lot of these people, a lot of the people that they want to punch are starting to arm themselves. And last thing we need is more people getting shot
Yeah,
because they do something ignorant. So
yeah. No, great, great. So I would say the type of thing that you just said to these straight white guys that I've known for over 10 years, and they would say, man, I totally want to punch you right now. Fuck, I guess gay guys can be fascists too. Milo Yiannopoulos is a fascist. Fucking hell. And then all of a sudden they start talking about my sexuality, and like I didn't bring up my sexuality. Like what the fuck did you just bring that up for? And this one guy was like, not someone I'm scared of. Someone who's like at least 6, 8 inches. Like I'm about 6'2", and he's at least 6, 8 inches shorter than me, and not a tough guy. Like I was like, oh, what, you want to punch me? You just threatened me and started talking shit about me being gay. Let's meet up then. Let's meet up. Like I am not in the mood to take your fucking shit. And so that's the type of shit, and I got that over and over from Antifa people. Like they can't have they can't have a respectful disagreement about uh anything at all without like not just threatening you. Okay, not just commonly threatening you, which they will totally do, but then also bringing up your sexuality against you. Now, maybe this happens a little bit less often to you because you're a black gay guy, and also maybe because you agree with them about things a little bit more. But I do think that you would be amazed by how quick they'll flip, like a light switch, once they feel like you're no longer with them, and they'll start attacking you, and they'll attack you with everything they got. Like it won't just be about a political disagreement anymore. Then they'll start talking about how you're an Uncle Tom faggot or some shit. Like
see, I used to get called an Uncle Tom and all sorts of things by other black people because of my views at when I was a right winger,
mm-hmm.
and so I understand that's a really shitty feeling to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Though if I don't usually get mad when a black person says that to me, because I'm just like, wow, you stupid, you ignorant. But then when like a non-black person says that to me, then I'll pick up more of an attitude, because it feels more of an attack on my race.
Yeah.
And also, but I'm sure these people know better than to. I'm sure a lot of these people know better than they should know better than to do that, than to make it about your identity.
Oh, they do it all the time. You can see footage of. I mean, like they did it to me, and you can see footage of it on YouTube. You can see footage of black guys showing up to free speech rallies, somewhere where Antifa is, somewhere where Antifa is protesting, and some black guy shows up and says, well, hey, I'm a Trump supporter. Economy, I think, it's saying some Trump supporter, something that a Trump supporter would, and some white guy wearing a fucking bandana says, "Oh, go away, Uncle Tom." Like,
See,
that happens all the time.
see, I have an attitude, so
Yeah.
they would be hurt. They'd be really hurt if they talked to me like that. But
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't exactly cry myself to sleep at night if that happened.
let's see. I did I know people who also consider themselves Antifa, and I hear myself.
Oh, here. Tell me if you can hear yourself echo still.
Nope, I don't hear myself anymore.
Okay.
All right. But I know people who do, consider themselves, Antifa, and they're really chill. They don't, agree with the whole smashing windows and setting fire to cars and people, which is things that I've seen on videos before. But I think I think that ideologically speaking, there's nothing really wrong with Antifa. It's just some people's behavior. Plus, we do more than direct action.
Like what?
It's a lot. Mostly is taking information. A lot of people do go undercover and monitor. What we try to make sure we're understanding what the alt-right is thinking and what they're planning, and make sure we know them just as well as they know themselves.
You're doing a pretty bad job of it.
Some of us do better than others. There's this video from a channel called Philosophy Tube. It's like an hour long, but it is.
Yeah, I made a response video to that.
You did? What did you say?
It's absolutely cringeworthy, embarrassing, and but to the point where I'm actually glad that they made it, because it shows people just how funny it is when Antifa tries to justify itself intellectually, because it's like, oh, okay, so yeah, your ideas are about as stupid as I thought. Thanks for letting us know.
What exactly was cringeworthy about it?
It was a while ago that I made that video. But I forced myself to watch the whole thing. It was one of those situations where I seriously was stopping every 30 seconds to take down notes. I mean, the guy was a wacko. No, I don't think he's a wacko. I think he's an actor, first of all. That Justin Trudeau looking motherfucker. He's an actor, and there were so many things that were suspect. For example, this is a very small detail, but they said that anybody can basically be Antifa, and this is a very common strategy with any tribalistic identity. When people are trying to get people to sign up and be a part of their group, they need more troops, and they're trying to get you to sign up. They're trying to get you to enlist. They'll come on sweet and they'll say, oh, well, all you have to do to be a part of us is to do this. And it sounds pretty simple, but then it turns out that there's more that comes along with it somewhere down the line, right? And so in the beginning, they're trying to say that, being Antifa only means that you're anti-fascist, which is incredibly, incredibly broad. So why is it so fucking specific? That's weird. That's already a contradiction, because we can see through how these people act, how we observe them, that there's something more specific going on. than being anti-fascist, because not everybody in the United States is Antifa. We all know that. So, but he was trying to say examples of, he was saying that Antifa is a specific type of anti-fascist protesting, and that's what defines it. And one of the examples he gave was even tearing down a fascist poster is an Antifa act. But if you're going to do that, be careful, because they like to hide razor blades behind them, which I thought was just hilarious. Like, that's just like, oh my God,
I
really?
wouldn't be surprised if they did. Actually, to be honest, alt-righters are actually incredibly violent people.
Then why haven't we seen the video of it?
There's news headlines from locals.
Is there?
Yeah, hold on. Because
I mean, the Antifa violence is all over YouTube. You can find it.
because they're stupid enough to let themselves get caught doing something stupid on camera, like but no,
but everyone has cameras.
no, I'm talking about like right-wing terrorism. It's actually a really big problem in this country, and most of our right-wing terrorism comes from white nationalists and white supremacists.
According to like now
according to
because I see those there's screen captures, it's like it'll be like a little viral infograph, and it will say like all of the different groups committing extremist violence, and it says white men the most, and then somebody else shares one that says black extremists the most, and like there's also all sorts of different ones. It's really hard to know who to believe. The one thing that I do know is that I can't there's very, very little video evidence, little to none. I can't actually think of any off the top of my head of violence instigated by the alt-right on that I can find. And I have this feeling that if there were situations where alt-right people were going out and beating people up and it got on video, which, remember, everybody has a video phone these days. If there were these situations, wouldn't they be viral so that people really knew that it was happening?
They're more like, when it comes to I'm looking right now for pretty much the government takes a study on terrorism that happens in America, that has happened in America since 9/11. So between September 12th, 2001 and today, and I'm trying to find that because it has shown that while more people have been killed by Islamic terrorism, there's been more terrorism in America from right-wing terrorists.
Okay, yeah, like more instances.
Yeah, more instances. And I'm trying.
I mean, yeah, I've certainly heard people say that. I would want to see the exact methodology. Who exactly came up with this? Is this, is this the FBI? Is this something majorly official, or is this a government-funded group that might have a political bias? Like, that's what I would want to know. Because I want to know very specifically. Because people say things like the alt-right is extremely violent. Well, that hasn't necessarily been my understanding of what I know for sure. What I do know for sure is that Antifa is very violent. I also know that they lie a lot. And I know that they're very violent because I've seen countless pieces of video evidence and because I witnessed it with my own eyes. And I also know that they lie a lot because they lie about what's in the video evidence and what I witnessed with my own eyes. So that's not looking good for Antifa. Now,
Okay. So the
oh,
report
okay.
I'm looking for is from the Government Accountability Office, which is a government agency. I'm just trying to.
So, you can link it in the side chat. Do you see the, are you on a computer?
Yep.
Yeah, just link it in the side chat in the Google Hangout that we're on.
Uh,
It's
uh,
on, it's to the right in the, to the
oh, I
lower
see.
right. Yeah.
Okay. I'll link it in just a second. Because it's fuck is it?
But okay,
Antifa.
here's another thing though to keep in mind. When before I look at this,
Mhm.
and I'll try to take a look at it and see if I see any flaws. But it might be kind of irrelevant because it's definitely a very high possibility that white male right wing terrorism, there has been more frequencies of it. Like there's or not necessarily white male, but like white right wing terrorism might be the most common thing since 9/11. But it would be uh, things like abortion clinic bombings, and various things like that. And that would not necessarily be the alt-right. That would be perhaps a religious extremist or something like that.
Here you
Okay,
go.
so
Um.
this is PolitiFact.
Yep.
A look at the data on domestic terrorism and who hold on. I don't know if I um where's the government's report? I don't want to look at PolitiFact.
I just met with
Oh
FBI
God, why is this
Director
playing?
Christopher.
Stop it. Okay, so
It's you scroll down a bit. Um, you'll see a subtitle that says. You scroll down a bit. You see a subtitle that says "What a Government Report Says About Violent Extremism," and that gives you the information from the Government Accountability Office.
I'm trying to find.
Data's from reports from April 2017.
Yeah, I'm trying to find where this data comes from, because it um PolitiFact is not a reputable source. So I'm
I
trying
just met
to
with FBI.
shut up. Because I mean, there's bogus data things that come out all the time, and now I'm certainly not saying that there aren't lots of violent acts of politically motivated acts of violence. People who are attacking, say, abortion clinics, or because that's been common, um, reasonably common, or potential racist attacks. But
That's the actual report. Found it.
okay, thanks. Okay, so this does look like a government. So, United States Government Accountability Office's report to congressional requesters.
It's just long as hell.
Yeah, it is. So, oh, and it looks kind of. But this was this was a uh, right, extreme method. So 29 is what we want to look at, because we want to get the exact methodology of how they're quantifying this.
Mhm.
29, come on. Oh, I'm not screen sharing. I should be screen sharing. Hold on. Sorry.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah.
That's fancy.
Okay.
Hey, you got a Mac as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
But you do need to plug your computer in.
Oh, you're right. Thanks for reminding me. Hold up. Um. Uh, 29, 29, 29, 29. Okay, wait. Far right, violent, extremist motivated attacks that resulted in fatalities September 1 through December. White supremacist member of Aryan Brotherhood killed a man. Okay, so one that instance, we don't know if that is little details about it, like, but I suppose it's more than likely probably a hate crime, right?
I'm sure that there was that the reason the man was killed by the Aryan Brotherhood dude was politically motivated.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess it wouldn't probably be counted if it wasn't if it wasn't. But so same white supremacist as previous case, but another victim a few weeks later.
Damn.
White supremacist murdered. But see, wait, no, 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 no. It's already getting weird. It's already seeming biased because that guy says killed a man, and then the next one it says white supremacist murdered an African American. So it's like, wait, why did he kill the other guys? Like, are you counting this just because the guy was a member of the Aryan Brotherhood? Or like what if the murder had nothing to do with it and it like because like those Aryan Brotherhood dudes are fucked up dudes. Like I watched a documentary about them. They have like they're some of the most feared prison gangs in the nation. Like you go into prison and you don't fuck with the Aryan Brotherhood because they will fucking kill you and make it hurt before you die. And so
So I just found an article about this. I mean, it's from CNN. Take what you will with it, but I found an article about this, the September 15th, 2001 shooting. It says that the Aryan Brotherhood guy killed a man from India during a series of revenge shootings after the terror attacks of 9/11.
okay. Okay. Yeah. That's okay. That's I would say that that's a racially motivated act of terror. Well, thanks for looking that up. So yeah, that guy sounds like a okay, and then white supremacist murdered an African American in Portland. White supremacist skinhead murdered a transgender person. Far right violent extremists murdered 3 fast food workers, 1 Native American and 2 Hispanic. Neo-Nazi murdered a gay man. Tucson, Arizona. Anti-government sovereign citizen murdered an Ohio police officer. 2 white supremacists murdered a man. Okay, so these are all seeming pretty legit. Hold up. And then so let's go back to that first one because like that's more of a summary. Because it seems like the methodology is not entirely non-sound. But okay, so one of the problems that I have is that
I just met with FBI director.
one of the problems that I have with the way that these hate crimes and terror things are classified is that so when they try to quantify white supremacist murder acts and everything, there have been a lot of those, and I mean that makes a lot of sense. We're a nation that has a lot of racial tensions, and we are majority white, but there's lots of different other people of different skin colors, and thus, there the, the majority population is going to be very commonly there's going to be a lot of instances from the majority population of individuals attacking members of minority groups. That's definitely going to happen. And then the thing that they're always comparing it to is Islamic extremism, right? They're always saying, oh, everybody thinks it's going to be Islamic extremism, but actually there's been more instances of terrorism coming from
The right.
from far right extremist groups,
I
right?
think the reason why it's the comparison is because those are the two most common forms of terrorism. But
Yeah.
I'm oh wow. A lot of the attacks from 2002 are are just the Beltway sniper attack. Just looked at this. But yeah, most of our
Oh,
most
hello.
hello? Hello?
Yeah, you were roboting for a second.
Oh.
But here. Oh, wait, am I presenting to everyone? No, I think I am. Yes, I am. Okay, so um you're saying that a lot of the things from 2002 were one attack?
Yeah, it was from one person or group.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Huh.
it was just multiple different attacks.
Okay. Well, but regardless, I think that it's a weird thing to 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 compare to try to say, oh, well, white people are more dangerous than Islamic people because there's been more, blah blah blah. That's not like is there's such a small minority of Islamic people in the United States. There's so few Islamic people here. And so the fact that, like if you were to take proportionally the number of Islamic people in comparison to right-wing people, then it would be an astronomically higher frequency of Islamic attacks. And that's just facts.
I think the
Um,
reason why people are making this point about right-wing terrorism is that a lot of people in America don't take the concept of right-wing terrorism seriously, and they're more concerned about a foreign, terror.
mhm.
They're more afraid of Islam because it's foreign and shit. Old school xenophobia, and you know they're more likely to take that seriously. And I think people are just bringing to light that no, it's these you got a whole bunch of right wingers who are committing a bunch of terror attacks that needs to be dealt with as well.
Well, I don't think that anyone's saying that we shouldn't deal with those.
Huh?
I don't think that anyone's saying that we should not deal.
Listen.
Can you not hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Um, I'll,
Okay.
I'm not sure
I,
that
I
people are saying that we shouldn't deal with right wing terror. It's more like people are saying that it either doesn't exist or is a non issue.
No, no, no. I don't think anyone's saying that. I think that people are saying that it does, but I think that one of the things that people would say is like, okay, well, why is there right-wing terror and how are we going to stop it? And is it going out and punching Nazis? Is it going out and trying to make sure that their speakers don't get a chance to speak? Has that ever really been successful? Well, it would appear that the alt-right has really, really grown over the past year, ever since the punch a Nazi thing started. So that's obviously not a very effective strategy, is
No,
what I was going to say. And so when we think about xenophobia and okay, first of all, fear of Islam is not just xenophobia. There's a reason to be scared of Islam. Like it is a religion that has um within the actual text of the Quran, there's all sorts of things about how you treat people who are not Muslims, and that's in the scripture. There's a reason why this is a religion that has massive amounts of violence, and not just against Christians and not just against, white people. There's actually a lot of white Muslims in certain parts of the world. But um, Islamic extremism, the biggest people who die from Islamic extremism are other Muslims. The Sunnis get attacked by the Shiites. The Shiites, I think, are more. I forget exactly, but I'm pretty sure.
Sunnis tend to have more. There are more terror attacks from Sunnis than there are from Shias, and there's like almost no terror attacks from Sufis.
Okay. So thanks. Yeah, like that is these are things that that kind of matter, and I think that when we look at the reasons that right-wing violence happens, is that they feel like that things are going, that Islamic immigration and things like that is going ignored, and so they feel like they're taking matters into their own hands. And so uh um it is a really, like I do not have the solution for how do I get, how do I talk a right-wing extremist out of being a right-wing extremist. I'm not sure. Well, no, no, it has happened. There's that one black guy who went and talked to a bunch of KKK guys, and he was able to convince a bunch of them not to be KKK guys anymore. You've heard about that story, right?
Daryl Davis, he did
Yeah.
what he did. What he did was not talk to them to convince them to change their ways.
Mhm.
What he did was just chill and be, he showed them that black people can be nice to them.
Yeah.
But in terms of rationalizing, telling, presenting facts to Nazis, or telling them, or being rational with them, in terms of, debating them, humans aren't rational. They will just double down. They will just, you can, have you ever argued with a flat earther before?
No, I've never even encountered one.
Okay, so flat earthers are determined. They will find any excuse to believe that the earth is flat. You can show them a picture of of earth from space, and they'll say that it's photoshopped. So and a lot of people are that, I mean, I'm using an extreme, but a lot of people, even if you present them with facts, you can't rationalize with them. Sometimes you just need to let them see for themselves. And some people just never change. Some people will listen to you and will change, but usually that means that they're questioning your ideology already.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, and I agree with that, but like, okay, so if that's the stance you take, then why be Antifa?
Well, I don't believe that like I said, I don't believe you can really rationalize with Nazis. I personally would not associate with them. I would not associate with them.
I don't
I
either.
would not be. I would not be friendly. Um, if I saw one get punched, I would probably laugh, and I know that sounds like a shitty thing to do, but I'm not gonna feel sorry for someone who wants to remove me from the only country I know. for some petty, racial shit. But
well, or no telling what they would do because you're gay and black.
yeah, I'm degenerate and inferior at the same time. but I do, but like, so I'm not, my goal is not really, to, change hearts and minds. My goal is to make sure that they stop growing. Get to people. I think
Do
that
you
we should
think that
talk to people.
okay, sorry, sorry, I shouldn't have cut you off. Finish your sentence.
I just think that we should try and rationalize with people who are. I think that as much as I personally do not like centrists, I think that we should try and appeal to centrists, and I do understand that the left is not very good at that. The right is excellent at appealing to centrists, at least they are right now, because the right has fabricated some sort of victim narrative that you know that we're not exactly helping ourselves
fabricated
with. Yes.
Are you sure fabricated is the right word? Because I was at that Trump rally in or not Trump rally, but Milo speaking event with all the Trump supporters, and I saw those Trump supporters being attacked.
When I say victim narrative, and I apologize for cutting you off, when I say victim narrative, I mean like an oppression. You have right wingers marketing off this narrative that they are oppressed by.
That's not what that's not really what they would say, though. I mean, some of them, no, I don't think they put it in those terms. I think that it's more like, okay, there's some fucked up shit that's happening to us, and we're not going to let it keep happening over and over until, and that they would say that they're going to eventually stand up for themselves, is what they're probably going to say. I don't think, like, I think the left has this sort of habit of and you sounded like you were complaining about this before. The left has this habit of either you're privileged or you're oppressed. And you can't, there's not a whole lot of gray area. And there definitely are people on the right wing that would say that the reverse is true and blah blah blah, but I would say that there's a majority of people who are just saying like, hey, well, if you guys are going to continue attacking us, we're going to stand up for ourselves. And it's not really like a whole lot more complicated than that. Sorry, I'm a little bit spacey tonight. Sorry.
That's fine. When it comes to like alt-righters thinking, when I say, I'm going to sound like a centrist right now, but alt-righters, a lot of things they say, a lot of things that they do mirrors that of, folks on Tumblr, the wild SJWs. And so when I say they fabricating a victim narrative, they're talking about how white people are being replaced. They're being there's a conspiracy to wipe out white people, or there's or at least with all the people considered alt-light. There's a conspiracy to destroy Western culture and Western civilization. And that frenzies up people. That makes that energizes them, and the centrists who in my opinion are very.
Would you say maybe a better way to say it is exaggerating a victim narrative?
If I'm referring to violent altercations that they have with leftists at rallies and protests, and sure, I could say exaggerating. But when I'm talking about stuff like the white genocide conspiracy theory, I mean exactly fabrication.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, I don't know enough about that to even say what I think about it. Like, I don't know for 100% sure that it's not true, you know. So I certainly don't believe in it. Um, I like, and when people, I think of fabrication as something that's deliberately dishonest. And there are reasons for people who are alt-right to believe that there is a white genocide. And I say that not because like there's tangible evidence of some sort of Jewish conspiracy like that. I don't believe in that, but there are the white population, the population that we would call white is diminishing. And if you look at population growth, you know, if over the next 100 years, there will be very, very, very few white people. And also, there's lots of people who do publicly talk about how they want white genocide. There was a professor who's white himself who tweeted, "All I want for Christmas is white genocide." And he did not lose his job. He barely got even disciplinary actions for it. And then he acted like he was the victim. Nobody cared that that happened. So I think it's a little bit intellectually dishonest to say that they're entirely fabricating this narrative of white genocide, even because I think that they might really believe it.
Oh, they might genuinely believe it, but it's still not. But it still was fabricated. In fact, it's an idea that's been around for longer than SJWs have been around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I've heard of it.
But and a lot of alt-right ideologies, a lot of alt-right ideas, they're just really old racist ideas that have been modernized, polished up, you know.
Yeah.
Like
well, so are leftist ideas.
Yeah, sometimes I'm not sure exactly specifically. I'm not sure specifically, but like, yeah, everyone's trying to modernize, but particularly how people get fooled into thinking that, okay, I'll put it this way. You said earlier that the white population is diminishing, and then like in give or take 100 years, there'll be very few white people left. You said that, correct?
Well, I said what we think of, or what is, I don't remember my exact wording, but what I'll say is what is currently defined in our census in the data gathering that we gather for our census. What is currently defined as white is shrinking, and in 100 years will be massively smaller. But that's for, it's not simply because it's definitely not because white people are being shipped off to concentration camps at the moment. Like, I don't know, that might happen in the future. I don't know that it won't, but it's mostly having to do with the fact that white people are having less children, but more than that, there's more and more children of mixed households that are being born. And so there's, you know, lots and lots of white and Asian babies, or white and Latino babies, or white and black babies. And those are not being counted as white. And so people can just look at the numbers and be like, "Oh no, where are the white people going?" And it's like, well, they're not dying. They're having babies with people of other skin colors. Who cares, you know?
And well, the alt-right cares a lot. They notice the interracial relationship, the interracial relationships. In fact, they talk about how mixing with other races, in particularly Black and Arab, people, is corrupting the white genes. And I'm like, okay, that's stupid. But one thing that's really fun to do is to tweet pictures of interracial couples at alt-righters and see if they block you.
Yeah, Sargon was doing that for a while. He did interracial gay porn. So, but okay,
Ooh.
I wanna get back though to um oh my God, these people keep tweeting at me. They don't understand that they don't understand the difference between me refusing to be friends with somebody who demands to be referred to exclusively with they them pronouns, like, and then the fact that I ever use the word they them in a sentence ever. They think that if they catch me ever saying the words they them, that means that I'm a hypocrite because I don't like being friends with people who only will be called by they them pronouns. Like, that's supposed to be some sort of gotcha moment for them. It's so pathetic. It's so pathetic. They're still tweeting about it. It's honestly funny. Sorry though. Sorry. That's just me venting because I just looked at Twitter.
Oh, they're having fun with you. That's basically what they're trying to do.
I made a video about it. I'm just amazed that they're still doing it, that they're still posting. Like, and they're not actually having fun. Like, that's not like that would imply that they're trolling, that they're trying to just get a reaction out of me. But I mean, do you legitimately think that they know that they're full of shit and that they're just being stupid on purpose?
I'm sure that some of them are being unironic, but I'm sure a lot of them are just really just fucking with you. Like me, that shit I would do because to be honest, no offense, but when someone says that they won't associate with someone who, you know, will only use they them pronouns, that does rub me the wrong way because to me it seems like, to me it seems high key bigoted, but
the person could just say, okay, fine, you can call me she, right?
Sure, they could, but I'm very much but if that's not how they identify,
I don't give a fuck. I mean, like, if they want to be transgender, they could do that. But we live in a world where people are born with one genitals, and if they want to transition to the others, then I can almost certainly be okay with that. You know, even if they don't do a particularly good job of presenting as the opposite gender, I can usually be okay with that for the sake of being nice, right? Usually.
Well, non-binary people.
But if somebody pretends that they don't have a gender at all, not only is that going to be annoying for me because I'm probably going to slip up at some point, and I don't see them that way. I don't think that anybody doesn't have a gender. You know, I don't think that that's true. But I also will have to, every time I introduce them to somebody, I'll have to be like, oh, by the way, my friend uses they them pronouns, and so you have to call them that or they're going to get offended, just so you know. And like, no, I don't have any time for that. I'm fucking about to be 36 years old. Hell fucking no.
So it's not really about them being offended. See, non-binary people also have gender dysphoria.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Not all of them. Not most of them. The vast majority of them are people that have convinced themselves that they have some sort of psychological condition that they more than probably don't have. And these are things that people can... I've known these people for a very, very long time. When was the first time you met one of these people?
Freshman year of
okay.
college.
Okay.
I'll say this. Yes, there are posers out there. I'm not going to deny that. There's always someone.
Yeah. With the non-binary population, it would be about 99.5% of them are posers.
I'm not sure if you can verify that for sure, but
No, I can't. But I've known dozens and dozens of them, and they are generally upper middle class femme white women is what they are, and they want a reason to be able to say that they are a minority, and so they start saying that they're trans, and or they like I know this one girl used to be a friend of mine. I actually DJ'd at her wedding, straight wedding. She was a mostly heterosexual girl that would hook up with girls sometimes. And then she got divorced from her husband and in probably her late 20s, early 30s. And she became a man-hating feminist. And she started mostly hanging out with anarchist types. And she ended up joining a band that was trans guys, like female to male, legit trans people who actually take hormones. And she joined the band, and I think that due to the scene of people that she was hanging out around, she decided that she wanted to no longer be considered cis. Also because she hated men because she had just gotten the messy divorce, and so she started calling herself non-binary, despite the fact that she's in her early 30s, and she didn't do anything, and she doesn't have gender dysphoria. She's a girly girl. I've known her, and it's totally just a stupid trend, and that's the majority of these people by by far, and there are people who have this is something I want to make a whole video about. There are a lot of people who have various forms of body dysphoria who are who end up identifying as non-binary, right? Like these are people who, for whatever reason, they feel like they haven't been comfortable in their body, but they don't want to be they don't want to transition, and then they realize that they could be this non-binary thing where they don't have either gender. But what it really is that they have body dysphoria, and it's usually based around abuse. It usually has to do with the fact that this person was abused in some way. And people end up with dissociative disorders where they don't want to be in their body, or they want to somehow dissociate with their body the way that it is. And it can often be worked through in therapeutic settings. And I think it's a shame that we have this culture of people encouraging people to believe that, because transgenderism often comes from a very early age, and there's a lot of debate about whether or not it could be cured in a therapeutic session. I don't know enough about it, but they know that it can be treated by people transitioning. If somebody has full-blown gender dysphoria, it can be treated that they can no longer feel like they have it. But these people who claim to be non-binary, I think they're just confused, and I think that they're being misled. But we should finish up about this because I still want to talk about Antifa stuff more.
Okay. Well, when it comes to non-binary people, I do know people who are using hormones as non-binary people. I do know, and in order to use hormones, you do have to get diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Is from what I understand.
Yeah, yes and no. There's a lot of SJW clinicians sprouting up, and also it's not hard to get hormones illegally. No, are these people who are generally female born, assigned female at birth, who are using testosterone?
Yes, primarily.
Okay, because yeah, it's particularly easy to get testosterone because men take testosterone illegally as well to increase their energy and muscle gaining. Athletes and bodybuilders and stuff
I might need that shit. I'm too skinny.
Yeah, so it's not hard to get black market testosterone. So uh there's definitely a high probability that some of these people that you know that say that they're non-binary and that they were diagnosed by a doctor with gender dysphoria, they're just fucking lying. I don't know for certain, but there's a very, very high likelihood that they're just lying.
I don't know if I agree with you. To be honest, even if, let's say, they're hypothetically, they are making this up. For me, I don't really care that much. Like, I'm still going to refer to them as they, them. I'm not inclined to refer to them as Z or Zim or whatever the fuck Tumblr has concocted. But for me, I'm not going to let something like pronouns inhibit my ability to, have a relationship with someone.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would feel the exact same way as you if I was younger, and I don't mean that in the way that I think that you're immature. Even if I had my exact same intellect and wisdom, and I was put back into a 20-year-old's body and I was in college, I probably would, swallow my pride for the sake of having friends. Like because that's what you do. You meet people halfway, and maybe you think that something's, like maybe you meet a girl and she says to you that she's non-binary, and you're thinking in your head, oh God, really? Even this girl? She's a girl. She's obviously a girl. There's no way that I don't think of this girl as a girl. That's what you kind of think in your head, but you're like, okay, which pronouns do you prefer? And she says they, them. And so you say, okay. And you're making a compromise in your head by agreeing to do that. But you're fine with it because she seems nice. Right? I have no problem with the fact that you would do that. And I can understand that. I would probably do the same thing if I was in your situation. I personally, at being, 36 years old and seeing the way that this trend has started and spread, and seeing that it's I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it helps anybody. I don't think it, the whatever feeling of alienation that they had to begin with that inspired them to start telling people that they were gender neutral. I just don't think what they're doing is actually a solution. I think that people should look towards other avenues of expressing their own individuality than trying to change their gender, and also more importantly, not just order other people around, but hope that the laws change so that everybody has to refer to them the way that they want. They are enabling authoritarianism. Like they are trying to they're trying to put it in the laws that I have to refer to these people as they, them pronouns. And if I don't do it, they can tattle to the teacher. And the fact that these people are not just getting away with it, but they're making it look cool to other people to be like that, that's very concerning to me. And since I am 36 years old and I don't have any interest in being friends with these people anyway, it's not like I'm going out and running into them, and I don't hang out in the same places that they hang out at. I won't be friends with them, and I will tell people exactly why and why I feel like they should do the same. But I do that in my videos. Let's talk back more about Antifa and stuff.
All right. What about them specifically?
So I'm still not completely sure why you feel compelled to. I can understand why you're against the alt-right. I am not alt-right, and I mean, I don't think that the alt-right likes me very much. I'm gay, and so when I am faced with instances of alt-right arguments, which granted are pretty rare, I don't come across them often, but when I am faced with them, I have a tendency to argue against them. But I don't consider myself being Antifa, and I also don't necessarily consider everybody that we could associate with the alt-right to be fascists.
I mean, I could say it's pretty oversimplistic to refer to all the alt-righters as, you know, fascists, but I would say that all of them are authoritarian, or at least in order to get what they want, they have to be extremely authoritarian, and fascism seems to be the best avenue for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so like there are different people that fall under alt-right, and like there's different brackets, and you know, like the Venn diagram of things like white nationalists, race realists, what European identitarians, like these are different things, and there are overlaps, but like, you know, just because somebody's a race realist does not mean that they want to create a white ethno state, for example.
It does mean they're racist, though.
It depends upon, it doesn't necessarily. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think that it's often a semantic thing, because it sort of depends on how people define race, and also how into the race realism stuff they are. Like, what aspects are they looking at it? Like, are they simply saying that different populations from different areas tend to have different IQs, or are they saying all black people on average are stupider than all white people on average? And you know, it's like there's varying degrees of how seriously somebody takes race realism. Like, there's certain things about race realism that are pretty undeniable, and then there's people who take it way too far.
What's undeniable about any
if you were to say
realism?
If you were to say that black people aren't less likely to sunburn, you would be lying, right?
Well, the reason, I'll say black people sunburn pretty well too. In fact, we actually are more likely to get skin cancer simply because it's harder to, you know, detect skin cancer in darker skin. But my mom, she's literally allergic to the sun, and she's as black as I am. So I don't think that black people are inherently more, you know, resistant to the sun. You know what I'm trying to say?
Kind of, but I think you're stretching. No, I think I know what you're trying to say, but I think you know that you're stretching what I'm saying into something else.
What do you think that I'm saying?
You're trying to say that black people have to deal with the sun too, and so things even out in a bit of a way.
In a sense, yes.
Yeah, so I'm saying that we all know that if we went to the park and it was sunny out and we played frisbee and we took off our shirts because we got hot, I would be the one that would be hurting in 5 hours, much more likely than you. Because I'm about as pale as my avatar.
Who knows? What other?
All I'm saying is that there are people who consider themselves not opposed entirely to race realism, and they would say that they aren't for that kind of reason, for the type of thing that I just said, and they would say that that's all that race realism is. But there's definitely certain people that think that, you know, that you can easily calculate someone's IQ based on their race, which is a really, really stupid idea. And I should be making a whole video about that, and I will. I've made 2 different videos about the idea of IQ tests and the flaws of methodology of gathering the data, which you could watch. I could link you with those videos. Just because, like, I don't believe that we have gathered all that much data around people's IQs. Like, I don't think that there's been that many tests around different racial groups to really know. And were those tests even all that accurate? I don't really know if that's been done. But regardless,
when it comes to I reject the notion that there's such thing as a biological race in humans, because race is more of a sociological concept and not a biological one. It's largely arbitrary, actually. It is really.
Wait. But can we admit that there's 2 different words here? There's like I think that we are all the same species. Yes. And but we have a different word for race. Like, race is a different word than species. Nobody's saying that we're not the same species, but people are saying that we're a different race in the same way that all dogs are the same species, but there are different breeds.
But see, different breeds are mostly created. Like a lot of the breeds are they're bred specifically to be a certain way. Mm-hmm. And also dogs will evolve faster than humans because they mature faster and reproduce at a younger age than us. Mm-hmm. So they have evolved a lot more quickly than we have.
Yeah, they've been engineered.
Yeah. Meanwhile, humans, we have not really changed that much. We've changed in ways, but we've not changed that much in however long we've been around. Mm-hmm. And we've not changed, and we've not become so. And there's nothing unique about any of the specific races that classify them as a different subspecies, which is what people usually, compare to what a race is.
The scientific definition for something being a different species is whether or not the offspring of 2 different groups can reproduce successfully, which means, for example, a tiger and a lion are different species, because even though they're in the same family, you could breed a lion with a tiger. They've done it before, and create a liger. Those exist. I've actually seen one, a captive liger that they had bred, but the liger cannot produce offspring. It's sterile. It's infertile. It's sterile. So that's what makes something a different species, is when its offspring cannot reproduce.
No, I'm talking about a subspecies.
Okay.
People usually automatically assume that humans have multiple subspecies because of races. There are subspecies in other animals, but in humans, there's only one. And we're all the same subspecies.
Let me look up the definition of subspecies exactly, because I haven't. I just want to make sure I know that. Oh, sorry, I'm so spacey tonight. I've been not really on it. Subspecies. I wanted to say something about subspecies definition. I wanted to say something about extremist violence and the occurrences of extremist violence. So I want you to finish, but then I'll remind me to say what I was going to say about extremist violence. Okay.
Okay, I'll try to remember that.
So subspecies, a taxonomic category that ranks below species, usually a fairly permanent geographical isolated race. Subspecies are designated by a Latin term. So That's a very arbitrary sounding word.
It is. But apparently in biology, there's such. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, because why wouldn't sub-Saharan Africans be considered different than East Asians according to this? Like, why wouldn't they be a subspecies?
There's nothing specifically different about each between the two. In fact, there's more variation between various African.
Wait. Are you saying you're colorblind?
No.
I was being facetious.
Oh.
Facetious. See, something is wrong with me. I haven't been sleeping well, and I'm sort of out of it. But yeah, I was joking around, but I think it's kind of weird to say that there's not a difference between sub-Saharan Africa and people from sub-Saharan African regions and East Asians. Like, that's rubs me a little bit disingenuous. I mean, there's hair differences, there's facial feature differences, there's height differences.
Nothing unique to any specific race, though.
No, nothing unique to any specific species.
No, I'm talking about race. Nothing specific about any of our races that isn't found in other races. Also,
wait, no, but like, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if there's a single person in East Asia, like if you were to go to northern parts of Japan, and let's say 500 years ago, before we traveled much, if you were to go to a part of northern Japan, the people there would be more light-skinned and have different facial features than I think anybody that you would find in this around the Sahara Desert. And I think I don't think that it's not like you're going to find that random black person over in Japan.
All right. How many races are there? Tell me, how many races are there?
I don't. I wonder who would feel qualified to answer that question. I mean, like, how many dog breeds are there?
Well, when I'm asking how many races are in humans, I'll be honest with you. It's a trick question.
Yeah, I knew that.
It's so arbitrary that there can be that there's so many ways to classify human populations. The easiest way is to categorize it by continent, but you have a problem when some continents, particularly Africa, is much more diverse than other continents, particularly Eurasia. Eurasia.
Yeah. Well, and also, people aren't sure how exactly indigenous people got to the Americas and Australia.
Speaking of which, Amerindians, the native people of the Americas, are all descended from the same person. And the same person who
he was a pimp.
No, he was probably the most recent common ancestor for them. And actually, I think we all are descended from one person on our mother's through our female line too, but I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, well, you know what? Wait, we're talking way too much about this race realism stuff. I think the point is we can, because I don't really have a solid opinion about this, so I'm not going to say that we need to agree to even disagree about stuff, because I can see where you're coming from. it's not important to me really. You know what I mean? Like I don't have a problem really with what you're saying. I do think I think there's a possibility that I understand the countering arguments to what you're saying a little bit better, and we could have that debate a little bit more in further depth. But I think that I want to focus a little bit more on why you feel compelled to call yourself Antifa, and why you think being Antifa is a solution to to being against your political opposition. And yeah, just that general.
Because I don't see, and I don't see Antifa. I don't see Antifas as, just a bunch of hoodlums smashing windows. I see actually a large part of the reason why I identify as an anti-fascist is because of that video from Philosophy Tube. I don't see Antifa as a bunch of thugs. I see some thugs, definitely. I'm not gonna lie and pretend I didn't see violence, unnecessary violence, but I'm not. I think that I feel like anti-fascists are fighting for the right cause. It's just sometimes their methodology is destructive and not constructive.
What do you think they're trying to achieve?
Okay, so short answer, to stop the alt-right, to stop their growth, essentially, to steer society away from this far right direction that it's trying to go.
Okay, but where are they trying to steer it towards?
Well, it depends on the individual within the, it depends on the individual. You have people who are anarchists.
Wait. But if it depends upon the individual, why come up with a collective label?
Well, it's just the position of being against fascism, as I say.
Yeah, but we all know it's a little bit more than that.
Not really. Unless you want me to talk specifically about the communists, I could tell you what their goals are, but I'm not a communist.
Well, okay, so yeah, it seems I know that you're not a communist, and I would say a probable majority of people who identify as Antifa identify as anarchists. And a lot of this has been known throughout in various different places, that in various different socialist, communist, and places in which there have been attempted socialist, communist revolutions that failed, the communist leaders almost always use anarchism as the way to rally troops. They try to gather young people based around rallying them behind anarchism. And then it turns out that what they're leading them towards is communism.
Well, communism is anarchism.
Yeah, that's what they would like to say.
Unless you're talking about the Soviet Union, which isn't communism, it is Marxist-Leninism.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't real communism.
Yes, it wasn't real communism. Like,
because okay, so according to
party, but
no, I know I know this. I know this. I'm familiar with this train of thought. Is the idea that um okay, this the notion is that communism is when people are sharing resources not because they are forced to, like the Soviet Union by some sort of authoritarian government, but because they choose to,
Um,
right?
let's, I wouldn't say exactly that. It's more so. I mean, yes, it's where you have to work together. So okay. Communism is essentially the collective ownership of the means of production. That's and it's the result. It's an anarchist society with a I'm sorry, I am tired. I can't explain this, but
That's cool.
let me.
I understand. No, I think I know what communism is supposed to be pretty well. Um, but the thing is, um, the problem is, from my understanding, there tends to have to be leaders, and we want to believe in this utopian, idea where there's people who can just kind of cooperate with each other, and no one is in charge, and therefore no one's has more stuff than the other person because everybody's just being cooperative, and it's awesome, and that would be real communism. But have you ever played music? Have you ever been in a band or anything?
No,
No. Okay. Well, maybe you can imagine this, but God, it would be best. Do you ever play video games?
not in a long time, but but go ahead.
Have you ever played a team game like something like Overwatch?
Um, no.
Okay. It's still then I don't know what's a good comparison to this. Well, okay.
I'm a film guy, so that's my thing.
Okay. Um, you couldn't make a film without a director very easily, right? And you certainly, I mean, maybe you could have co-directors or whatever, but every time you start making a film, people don't just start doing shit and making a film, right? You have to have somebody who's making it happen. Generally, it's going to be one person who's really the one who's kind of steering the ship. And sometimes there's two, sometimes there's people who are there's two people who are really really into it, and maybe sometimes there's three, but it's and these people can devote energy to like the director found a really really good script writer, they found a script that they liked, but often the director will change it a lot. um, there's usually one person that's really motivated to make the thing happen, and governments are kind of like that. You you have to there's going to be somebody that's going to be in charge, and otherwise people aren't really going to do anything. And that's just sort of one of those basic realities of life. And so it would be kind of like communism, this idea that everyone's going to be they're going to own the means of production, and they're going to be productive, and everyone's going to be happy. It's kind of like expecting to put five people in a room and give them all instruments, like musical instruments, and expect them to be a band, even though nobody's really leading the band. Nobody's actually really writing the songs. The drummer isn't necessarily sure about what type of beat he wants to play for them. You know, it's sort of naive to believe that that could ever happen. Ultimately, the way that that band is going to become a band is if the dude with the guitar and the guy who wants to sing and he has a guitar, he decides, hey guys, I wrote these songs. Could you maybe play a beat and do a bass line that sounds good with this? And he starts playing the shit for the other people. And that's how kind of governments go. You know, somebody says, hey guys, I I want to be in charge. I came up with I have a farm, and I worked really, really hard to build this plant to process my food, and I have a lot of money, and I have some good ideas about how to govern this countryside, and let's do that. And to throw that away, so that everybody could ideally share everything, that's just never really going to happen. And therefore the only way to even get it to pretend that it happened, that it's going to happen, is to do the Marxist-Leninist thing, which will happen over and over when you try to install the communist government. So yeah, that's sort of just the natural progression of things. But I think that there's a few things to keep in mind about Antifa. One of them is and I forgot to say this. That government data thing that was there. When we were looking at that, I just wanted to say this as a point of clarification. The biggest, the thing that they had the most listings from was from far right extremism, right? But one of the things that they almost never count in government data collection, for whatever reason, and they refuse to even call it that, is call it any sort of like terrorism or even a hate crime, is racially motivated crimes against white people. And we saw this recently when did you hear about the story with the I'm sure you heard about it, with the 4 young black people who kidnapped the young white man with special needs and they tortured him?
Yes, I was in the city. I go to school in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
What happened?
Yeah,
I heard about that.
yeah. So that was messed up, and that was not classified as a racially motivated hate crime. That was classified as, I think they tried to say it was a hate crime against the disabled, which is stupid. Like, that's, it's like, no. He was not targeted because he was disabled. He was targeted because he was white. He was chosen because he was disabled. But that being said, we know that the police were trying, even though we have the entire internet has seen that was a hate crime, they didn't classify it as such. So we know that there's more than probably a massive amount of unreported racially motivated crimes against white people. And if we were to total all of those up, that could be a pretty big category by itself. So I just wanted to mention that. But I don't have any great point that goes alongside that. I just think that, you know, like when we say something like, oh, the alt-right is violent, it's like, well, as compared to who? I mean, there's a lot of different people. And also, just because somebody is some sort of racist white person does not exactly mean that they're associated with the alt-right. The alt-right is, it seems to be, from my observation, and they're actually a lot more clever than people think that they are. They're a lot more, they're good at hiding themselves. They're good at, you know, kind of like manipulating people. I really, really, really doubt that because I've heard Antifa people brag about infiltrating the alt-right. Like I've seen that shit, and then they show me what they've come up with, and it's like, oh, you don't know anything. You don't know anything, because I've encountered alt-right people on the internet. Like they fuck with my sphere on YouTube, because my sphere on YouTube does not like these people, and they fuck with them. The alt-right has been fucking with some of my friends recently, and pretty bad. They've been doing weird shit. So I just think that, you know, when we say that the alt-right is a very specific bracket of people. Like this would be the alt-right, when we talk about them, we aren't okay. The hate crime index thing refers to everybody that's a far right extremist. That doesn't necessarily mean all that doesn't necessarily mean alt-right. In the same way that anarcho-communists don't represent all of left-wing extremism. Right? So there's that to keep in mind. And then what I wanted to say about Antifa, which I think is troublesome, and this is one of the things I saw in the Philosophy Tube video. What are your opinions about the Democratic Party? Are you in favor of the Democratic Party?
No, I don't like them. They're liberals. I don't like them.
Okay, so yeah, that's what every Antifa person says, I've noticed. I've never heard an Antifa person say that they like the Democratic Party. They always say that they hate the Democratic Party. But I've also never heard an Antifa person say that they didn't think that the Republicans were worse. Like, it's never been that the Democrats and the Republicans are equally as bad. They always say, oh yeah, Hillary Clinton's a war criminal, but Donald Trump is a fascist. We need to get him out of office by any means necessary, right? So they'll say, well, we hate Hillary Clinton, but we hate Donald Trump worse. And that's weird. And then you look at the Philosophy Tube video, and...
Well, I'll say this when it comes to, well, when Hillary Clinton isn't really relevant, she's not president. In my opinion, she's not relevant because of that. But also, I don't think Trump's a fascist. I think that he's authoritarian, but I don't think he's a fascist. But I don't think that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are worse than each other just overall. I think that because I think that they're both equally evil for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think that that's...
I would say that I would say that if I could trust either party to at least try and do progress, I would trust the Democrats more. But if they pull shit like they do with if in 2020 they pull the same shit they did in 2016, they're not going to win we're going to end up with 4 more years of Trump. We don't want that. At least I don't want that.
Yeah, well, I don't think that they're going to do anything besides pull the same shit, because the Democrats are the Wall Street Party now.
They're promoting Joe Kennedy III, and I'm like, oh God, not this shit again.
So yeah, the thing is, okay, so Antifa, now granted, I know that it's been around since Germany in right before World War II. I know that is where it originated from, and that it's had chapters in many different Western nations, and it's never entirely gone away. I know that. It's not that I don't know that. But Antifa, in terms of what we talk about it now, is something that happened basically when Trump became elected. It's relatively new phenomenon of, all of a sudden there's these black and red flags and default photos all over social media of black and red flags.
The black and red flag represents one of 2 ideologies.
Yeah, anarcho-communism.
Or anarcho-syndicalism. Because for whatever reason, they have the same exact flag. I don't get it.
One of them's like inverted or whatever, and I forget the exact difference between the the classifications. But regardless, those things magically popped up because despite the fact that Antifa allegedly, all the people in Antifa who, you know, allegedly think so differently, allegedly all these people think so differently, and they all allegedly hate the Democratic Party, but they weren't protesting the Democratic Party when the Democratic Party was in power. No, they weren't protesting that at all. The only thing that they were protesting was Black Lives Matter. They were doing Black Lives Matter all the time. But you know what was funny about that? Well, they had Obama's full approval. Obama was completely fine with people protesting for Black Lives Matter. So, while Obama was in office, you know, there were these protests, and he approved of them. He said, "Cool, do that protest. I'm glad. I agree with that." And they weren't trying to overthrow him. You know, that's not what it was. And then those same people who were protesting, the same types of people, like I'm sure you've never met a person who identifies as Antifa who isn't also a Black Lives Matter supporter, right?
Say that one more time.
Have you ever met somebody who is Antifa who's not also supportive of Black Lives Matter?
I never inquired about BLM, but I just assumed they were.
Yeah, because I mean, you show up to like do you go to like Antifa meetings?
No, I don't know of any meeting.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe that we're a centralized organization.
Well, no, yeah, but I mean, like, how do you know when you meet Antifa people?
Most of my interactions are online.
Okay.
I'm hearing myself.
Oh, okay. Can you hear yourself still?
Let's see. Oh, nope. I don't hear myself anymore.
Okay. So you're probably in Antifa groups on Facebook or something, right?
I follow Antifa, posters on people on Twitter.
Okay. So when you look at those Twitter accounts that are Antifa Twitter accounts, you notice that they probably also had a lot of Black Lives Matter stuff on them as well, generally, right?
Generally.
Yeah. So it used to be the case that during the Obama administration, there were year after year, there were all these protests that said Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And Obama said, yes, I'm okay with that. He approved of it. He fully gave those protesters his full blessing. And they were largely, non-violent and confrontive. They weren't going and attacking any sort of big, groups or whatever. Then, as soon as Trump goes into office, all of a sudden we have Antifa, and anybody who actually supports our democratically elected president is, any Trump supporter is considered by a lot of these people a fascist, and they're being attacked often physically or, at least certainly on the internet and being, I've had people tell me that I was a fascist because I told them I didn't agree with punching people that they suspected of being Nazis. They said, well, that makes you a fascist. I want to punch you too. That happened. This happened all very, very suddenly. And then they're trying to expand their network of who they get to consider a part of their tribe, of their tribalistic identity. So they want everybody who is against fascism to call themselves Antifa, but there's generally a few strings attached, because if you start disagreeing with them, then they'll start saying you're not Antifa enough. Like because they said that to me. They said, I'm like, well, I'm certainly not a fascist. And they said, well, then you should be punching fascists and calling yourself Antifa. And I said, but I don't want to do that. And they're like, well, then you're a fascist and I want to punch you. So it's like they were putting me into a box. They're backing me to a little bit of a corner. And that all is that behavior, that strange behavior started happening as soon as Trump got elected. It wasn't happening prior. It happened when Trump got elected. Now,
oh, by the way,
yeah,
I did find something from Obama's second inaugural about anarchists who protested and rioted during his after his inauguration. So I'm not sure if it's really. I think Antifa has probably more. I think there's more anarchists, ANCOMs now than there was during Obama's presidency.
Yeah.
But,
well, no, and they've never gone away, and they've, because I remember them in the 90s. There were I was in Seattle for the World Trade Organization protests in the 90s, and there were a lot of anarchists, a lot of not a whole lot of black bloc, but there was black bloc, and I guess there was Antifa people, and so yeah, and they kept going through the Bush years. That was a thing. And they were still around. And then what really happened during the Obama thing was the Occupy movement, which was it started out as a good idea because they were talking about too big to fail crony capitalism, where banks were colluding with the government and backing each other up in a way where the people were actually powerless. Most people didn't really understand what the protest was actually about, but it was actually a threat to the establishment. And the reason why was Occupy was the first time that there was a viral social media organized protest that ended up happening on all continents. And became this really, really big thing. And what I think that they sort of did as a response was to replace Occupy with Black Lives Matter. And I think that was concocted by the Democratic Party. I believe that they engineered that to happen because the Democratic Party legalized the usage of propaganda on the American people in 2012. By overturning the Smith-Mundt Act. And then media became very obsessed with talking about Black Lives Matter and highlighting instances of unarmed Black men or even armed Black men being killed by police officers. And everybody started protesting about that. And then the anarchist groups were around too. And then there were a lot of anarchist groups at the Black Lives Matter protests because anarchists love to protest. It's what they do. That's their thing. But this new phenomenon of Antifa largely has almost entirely grown during if you were to have asked somebody what is Antifa 2 years ago, almost nobody would know what you're talking about. But now almost everybody knows what you're talking about, right? And that's only been since Trump winning.
And we can say the same thing about the alt-right. They've been around since 2008, 2009.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. And that's actually a very relevant part of this. Here's the thing.
I blame the Atlantic.
And I largely blame Hillary Clinton because she delivered that speech during the campaign where she delivered a half-hour speech about the alt-right, and she tried to say that basically everybody on the internet who's not going to vote for her, like everybody on the internet who hates her, according to her, is alt-right.
Well, we all know she's evil, so
yeah, she sucks. So the Antifa phenomenon started when Trump got into office. It seemed like it was this big direct opposition to Trump, and then what is interesting is that despite the fact that Antifa claims to be against all government, I noticed in that philosophy tube thing, that whole hour-long video,
Mm-hmm.
the examples that he gave of bad things that had to do with the American government were always Republicans. He referred to Reagan being particularly fond of fascism, but he never said a single bad thing about the Democrats.
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing, he's not even American, so that might be part of the issue. But two,
Yeah, but do you think that he's not interested at all in American politics? Why would he talk about Republican presidents then?
no, I mean, like, my thing when it comes to non-Americans speaking on American politics is they usually get things wrong, like always. So, or they leave things out, or they're just overall ignorant about things. Hell, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of things that happened under Obama that even I didn't know about until recently. You know,
Yeah,
like the whole drone program,
yeah,
how he how he expanded, Bush's drone policy, and I was like, that's not cool.
yeah.
It's not cool.
Well, so do you think that that philosophy tube guy, the philosophy tube, do you think that he wrote that script himself?
Um, I don't know if he's working with anyone else, and he didn't credit anyone else. So I would assume that he wrote it himself.
Okay. Well, I would guess that he's an actor, and he was largely citing that book that was written by the professor. Um and
I actually ordered that book recently, so I'm gonna see what it says.
yeah. Um I have a okay. What do you think about that site? It's going down.
I don't know that site.
Oh, okay. It's goingdown.com. It's a Antifa site. Um let's look at it, okay?
Okay, let's see.
Because I didn't that's surprising me that you haven't heard of it. It's
Um, .com, because
or maybe .org
okay,
or
let's try.
.net. Hold
Let's
on.
try .org.
Here, I'll present to everyone because
What I'm seeing looks like not looks like a dead website.
this one. Oh wait, no. It's .org, and then
.org.
here I got it.
I got
It's not going to die. This is not okay. So
Yeah, I see.
it's going down. Choosing sides, getting organized is what it's called. And look at this flashy web design. This
It's
does not come cheap. This is good web design, right?
it's pretty.
Yeah, and look how many stories they have. Stories from today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, 7, 8. So 9 different stories just from today. Let's look at one of them.
Which one are you picking?
Yeah. So blah blah blah. This dude.
Jalil Mutakim.
So okay, it's not a big story. It's not a big story, but but
It's just advertising a podcast or something. Yeah, or radio show. That's what this is. An advert.
yeah. So, but here's the thing. This site has encouraged violence. They know about that. It got its Patreon shut down. So they can't get monthly pledges. This site claims to be completely supported by its crowd, its crowdfunding. But how do we actually believe that? Do we believe that there's, I mean, this is free. Do we believe that anarchist type people have a lot of money?
I wouldn't expect them to.
Yeah,
Unless they come from
and I've talked to,
families.
yeah, but I don't think that they have a whole bunch of money to like send to this blog to keep the blog going, right? And I've also talked to anarchist type people, and they've said that Antifa raises its money from punk rock shows. That was where they thought that they got their money. Punk rock shows don't make money. I've thrown punk rock shows. You're lucky if you have enough money to give the touring band $50 for gas money. They're probably going to get more like 12 to 20 bucks, you know? Um, and they'll be happy if they get that because you just don't make money from punk rock shows.
They have a lot of merchandise.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. So, this is a fancy website. I don't know if you know anything about web design, but I've known people who have been professional web designers. Just getting up a site for my personal music, like when I used to make music a lot, I asked somebody who, can make this high of quality websites, how much it would cost to get some links to where my music can be hosted and some pictures of me in a bio section and just make it look nice and everything. That was going to cost me I think it was about $2 or $3 grand.
Damn.
Yeah. So this is a nice site. It's well maintained, and there's 9 articles being published a day. Like 9, it's being updated that much. That means that there's at least probably 2 or 3 people working on this full time.
You want to know how you can really hurt them?
Who?
How you can really hurt this site? So one of their shirts has copyrighted imagery on it.
Which one?
The retro IGD shirt, the white one. It has a Calvin and Hobbes comic, only their version of it.
Huh. I'll take a look at that.
I'm a huge fan of Calvin and Hobbes, so I recognize that. I recognize that right off the bat.
Oh, it's Susie punching someone.
She's kicking a swastika.
I see. Yeah, yeah. Huh. Yeah, it's probably true, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, so here's the thing. This is an expensive site. This is not anybody's random handiwork. And this is certainly not just something that randomly happened by a bunch of punk rock and anarchists. This is some organized shit. There's money behind this. And
they donate through they allow you to donate through Bitcoin, which is something I don't associate with, leftists at all.
Yeah. So I think that this is people are pretty positive that Antifa is that this site at least and various parts of Antifa, because it's not, I mean, there are different little factions, sure, whatever, almost everything big has various different factions, like Christianity has different divisions and stuff, but people are pretty sure that it's funded by George Soros. And George Soros also was funding, he has something called the Open Borders Foundation. I don't know how much you know about him, but
I know that George Soros George Soros is like the boogeyman to a lot of right wingers.
Well, he's a boogeyman to a lot of people, and for good reason. He's a creep. He's a real creep. He has financially profited by betting against falling currencies. Like he made he has, I think, the world record for most money made in a single business venture or something, and it was his investing against the British pound during a big crash that happened about 20 years ago. The British currency massively crashed, and he had invested a lot of money in against it, betting that it was going to crash and that he would have to bail out the British banks. And he did that. And that's where most of his money came from. And he's done a lot of meddling in other governments, and mostly in Eastern Europe. And he has a society called the Open Borders Foundation, where he believes that the world shouldn't have borders, and that anybody who has borders is, I don't know, oppressive. And he's known for being extremely far leftist, but also kind of a weird, creepy authoritarian. Well, he is also tight with the Democratic Party. He was tight with Obama, and he was tight with he was very tight with Hillary Clinton. So
that wouldn't really make him a far leftist, because he's too much of a capitalist to be a far leftist.
Yeah. Well, in the same way that, there's all sorts of people who end up voting Republican, even though they want to be libertarian. And they don't think that the Republican Party is representative of their actual ideals. Like maybe they're an ANCAP, right? But
I hate ANCAPs.
Oh I can't say I have much in common with too many ANCAPs myself. And so there's all these people who are ANCAPs, and then they end up voting for Republicans in elections because they want the Republicans, because the Republicans are promising tax breaks, right? And the same ends up being true with the far leftists and the Democrats. Like all these far leftist movements, they talk about all this like utopianist, blah 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 blah, and then at the they talk about communists or true communism as opposed to Marxist Leninism, and how they're gonna, like, this time they're gonna get it right and blah 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 blah. But for now, what we need to do is stop the fascists in power. And when they demonize people, they're always demonizing the Republican Party. And when there's an election, it's always, vote for the lesser or of two evils, or don't vote, potentially. But you're never going to have these people have the same type of mobilized, coordinated effort against the Democratic Party directly. When the Democratic Party is sitting in power, there's not going to be fancy protest stuff that's directly challenging it in the way that there is against the Republicans. And that's where I find things very very what's the word? I don't want to say suspicious, but slightly disingenuous. Like it's kind of like, you're joining up for a cause, and it's like Antifa because it's anti-fascist, but could that ever, like, I'm sure in your head, answer me this question, you, Taylor, when you started calling yourself Antifa, you're thinking to yourself, well, I certainly hope that if the Democrats are in power and they start becoming fascistic, that we'd fight against them, right?
Repeat that for me, please.
If the Democrats were in power and they started being fascists, you'd want to fight against them as Antifa, right?
Correct.
Okay. I just simply don't think that there would be a big movement of Antifa against the Democrats, even if they were being fascistic. I think that despite what everybody's saying, that there's too many coincidences linking the Democratic Party and Antifa to ignore. And I think that Antifa is largely just
Bunch of
a
posers.
not posers, but people who have been misled into what I mean, if you want my honest opinion, what I kind of think Antifa is I think that Antifa is um a bunch of people that have been led towards creating civil unrest to make it look like there's a bunch of civil unrest in America, and that is designed to influence the election in 2020.
So like controlled opposition.
Not necessarily controlled opposition, because that sounds like it would be coming from Trump's team. I'm thinking that the plan is to get as many people protesting and rioting and have things become publicized and have a bunch of marches, like women's marches, and protests every time there's a free speech rally, and all this stuff. And when people do that for long enough and they hear about that stuff for long enough, they get sick of it and they want to blame Trump. Like people are they're going to think, oh man, those Trump years were bad because there was all those protests in the street. And that's what I think that the purpose of Antifa is. But I think that it would all go away once the Democrats went back in power. It's my theory.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay, you're probably getting tired.
Probably.
I feel bad because I sort of rambled, and I'm a little bit spacey, so I'm not good at articulating my thoughts. But I feel like I'm getting tired. So maybe we should cut off this stream. Do you have more stuff to say though?
No, I don't. Not really.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I don't have a problem with you being against fascism, right?
Right.
But what I wonder is why does there need to be a philosophy regarding being against fascism at all? Why do we have to even try to pretend that, like I'm against starvation? Should I try to have a philosophy that's against starvation? Like, what would that even look like? I don't really know. And so that's the question that I wanted to basically bring up, but I don't think that there's a really, great way to answer that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would say I think my reasoning why there should be some form of philosophy behind, anti-fascism is just to let people know why we think fascism is wrong. I think it's wrong because it's super authoritarian. I do not like authority. I have problems with authority. I don't like I also don't like the racism that comes with fascism.
Yeah, but what about the way that Antifa people are so often authoritarian? I mean, like, they say they burn free speech signs, and they've talked about getting rid of free speech.
Talked about getting rid of free speech. When did they say that?
Oh, well, they protest the free speech rallies.
Because those rallies are made in bad faith.
What do you mean?
The rallies aren't aren't really truly there to protect their right to free speech. They're there so they can protect their ability to say horrible shit and not get criticized for it.
I don't really think that that's true. I think that the rallies didn't happen enough for people. I mean, I can't speak for everyone at those rallies, but I would say that the majority of people who attended the free speech rallies as free speech proponents were doing so because they felt legitimately concerned with the state of media, academia, and protesters trying to shut down their viewpoints. I mean, I've been personally harassed, lied about, and called all sorts of untrue accusations all over social media um, due to things that I said that these people got mad at. Like, for example, I got in an argument about feminism with a trans guy. Well, I was arguing with somebody else, and then he joined in and he said, "Who the fuck is this Prince guy?" And this was my real name. It wasn't Prince, right? And he's like, "Who the fuck is this Prince guy?" And I'm like, somebody who's not talking to you. I'm like, I'm trying to talk to my friend about feminism. I'm telling her that I don't agree about this certain thing. And she was like, "Oh man, you don't know anything about feminism." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm not trying to talk to you." And he was like, "Yeah, well, if you want to talk to me, you can say it right to my face. You want to meet up?" And I was like, "What?" Like, so I looked through his photos, and he's a trans guy, like female to male guy, and you could tell because some of his older photos he looked more like a woman, and but all I wrote was I said, "Hey, I just looked through your photos, and I am not scared of you. You need to sit your little ass down, all right?" And he left me alone. And then a number of months later, probably like 3 or 4 months later, he threatened my friend, and my friend sent me a picture of it, of the thing, and it was worse. He said that, he was maybe gonna fuck him up, so my friend could bring his boyfriend so that he wouldn't fuck him up. And then my friend said, "Okay, I don't know if you need to threaten me with violence." And he was like, "I didn't threaten you. I just said I wanted to talk. But if you're so threatened, that's just your own fragile masculinity because you're scared of getting your ass beat," or some shit like that. And it was like, okay, you're just talking shit. So I was like, fuck this guy. And I posted publicly, I was like, this guy keeps threatening people. Maybe someone should meet up with him. I'd meet up with him. I just don't live in the same city as him right now. I think that he needs to get a lower dosage of testosterone and learn to not threaten people before he gets his ass whooped. Because, that's what I said. And he responded. He was like, he admitted fully that he had threatened me, and he tried to sort of weasel his way around saying that he had threatened my friend. He tried to say he didn't do it, but the screenshot was there. It was very clear. And then he admitted that he threatened me, and then he was saying that he was still willing to fight me and shit. And I was like, well, then let's do this. Let's fucking schedule it. Like, I will be visiting your area, probably within a year or so, and I will meet up with you and we can fight. I am not scared of you. And he was like, trying to talk shit a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I'm like 6'2", and like I've studied 4 different martial arts. Then he got scared, right? And so what did he do? He played victim. He said him and some of his friends started saying that I had threatened him and that I was transphobic. And the reason why I think is because I said that he needs to maybe take less testosterone because he's going to get his ass whooped. But that's just true. You take too much testosterone, you lose your temper pretty easily. So these motherfuckers have done shit like that to me. And that's just one instance of people like they were spreading lies that I was transphobic and that I had threatened somebody when the reverse was true. He had threatened me and threatened my friends. And they were they made an entire Facebook group designed to socially sabotage me, and I don't know what they were planning to do with it, but they invited a friend of mine to it, and my friend reported it, so it got shut down. But for all I know, these people were talking about trying to physically attack me, and they try to shut down speakers that they don't agree with. And so after enough, and they get away with it. You know, in Berkeley, it wasn't simply that Antifa was showing up to attack people, but the Berkeley mayor had told the police not to intervene in any fights. So Antifa was allowed to go there and throw fire, like M80 fireworks at people. The police weren't going to do anything about it. And the only time the police officers started doing anything about it was when the right wingers fought back and won. Like that happened. You know, there's video footage of that. I don't know if you've seen that, but there's like the right wingers decided that they were sick of Antifa, so they charged them and chased their little bitch asses away. And so, and you know, not all of them would be necessarily, those were like the black bloc extremists, but the right wingers won. The right wingers won the actual physical confrontation. And then from that point onward, there were police involved. The Berkeley mayor made sure that there was not going to be any escalations in violence. But as long as he thought that his little crew was going to win, the little Antifa people, because Berkeley mayor has ties to Antifa and BAM, the By Any Means Necessary group. As long as he thought that they were going to win, he was going to let them get away with it. And so that's when it starts to become weird. That's when people are starting to worry about their free speech, because, you know, they think that a conservative speaker should be able to speak on university campuses. They don't appreciate non-Nazis being called Nazis, and then having the crowd of people physically attacking people to keep them away from seeing it. They don't appreciate, you know, that's what's called the heckler's veto, and the Berkeley mayor letting people get away with it. So when people are opposed to all of that, they're not just showing up in bad faith. They're not just showing up because they are wanting to say crappy stuff. They just want to show up to see a lecture or something. Or there's several reasons to go to a free speech rally. Countless reasons. So, you know, when you say that, that's unfortunate to me, is what I will say. I hope you I know that you used to be more of a libertarian conservative type, but I imagine maybe you didn't hang out with a particularly cool crowd of people. And I'm not saying that you should look towards meeting some sort of cool crowd of conservative people, because honestly, I'm not a conservative. I don't think that there's some big massive pool of super awesome conservatives that are out there. You know, like, I don't think that you're going to find that necessarily.
Cool and conservative are both antonyms.
Yeah, I mean, no, there are certainly cool conservatives out there. I have friends that are conservative that I think are cool. I like them, you know. But I don't think that there's some big group of them. I'm not going to be sitting here telling you that you should go try to find some cool conservatives and be friends with them. But what I am going to say is, like, just don't trust that shit about, like, what Antifa says about free speech rallies. Like, that's just not true. Like, you probably largely knew that from the conservative, from the people that you knew that were conservatives that you liked, you know, when they were on one of their good days and you were getting along and you agreed about stuff. You probably knew why they supported free speech.
Well, it came up that what they really wanted to do was be able to say, you know, more racially insensitive things, borderline racist ass things, and they
even your good friends.
Yeah, it's remarkable how people will when it comes to, like, a lot of people, you know, get mad at, you know, Black conservatives for, you know, acting against their own interests, right? I feel bad for them because I know a lot of times Black conservatives are being used by people who probably are low key or even high key racist. pretending to be their friend so they can get away with saying some inflammatory shit. And that's what happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's a possibility that your bad experience with crappy conservative people who were like that is giving you a bias in terms of your judgment?
Probably, but not much, because they seem to prove my point more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah. Well, no, I am not denying that those people are out there, because they are. I see those people. I see these people who, you know, prior to the election, they were trying really hard not to have anyone think that they were bigoted, and then after they won, that now they're on social media, you know, and they're, you know, saying the N-word out loud.
And it also doesn't help that a lot of anti-SJW YouTubers are going down the alt-right path. You have
Andy Worski.
Yeah,
Yeah, every fucking day he has like an alt-right guest on. Like every fucking day.
I downloaded a screenshot from what someone posted a screenshot of him, you know, talking with, he was talking to he was looking for someone to argue against Jared Taylor, who's a race realist.
Yeah.
And
Jared Taylor's beyond a race realist. He's like a fucking like full-blown like white ethno state. He's like the granddaddy of the fucking alt-right.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And so this person comments saying, a person comments whose literal handle is race realist, said, asks to participate. Can I like drop screenshots in here or something?
Yeah, I can screen share you.
Oh, okay. How do I
So what you do is you click on, do you see on the left of the Google, there's that green window thing with the arrow in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, double click on that and I'll screen share you.
Okay. Oops. It went away. So. All right. So just click share.
Yeah, double click on it. It will come up with a menu.
I see it.
Yeah.
All right. And then just click share.
Yeah, I think so. Whatever it seems like. Yeah, there you go.
Whoa. Looks like infinite. Oh, I know why it looks infinite. Okay, so here you go.
Yeah.
Like I think he's lost his mind, sort of.
Yeah. Well, Andy's in it for the money. And Andy doesn't really, he's never really been particularly invested in any sort of argument. He got famous by making just response videos where he was basically a professional groaner, you know? Like he was a professional cringer. And you know, like I don't have a personal problem with him. I don't know him. And prior to all of this like alt-right stuff happening, he seems all right to me. But he was making a good income from YouTube, and then the adpocalypse happened and there weren't advertisements showing up on almost anybody's channel. And then I think that his live talk show was probably not doing so well, and then all of a sudden he got involved in this drama having to do with the alt-right. And what kind of happened was, so a friend of mine, Jeff Holiday, who I consider a friend. I've been on his show, the YouTube Saints, 3 times now. And I've met him in person twice. He doesn't live in the same state as I do. But Jeff Holiday is very, very against the alt-right, right? He's like kind of a centrist, skeptic, anti-SJW type. And he's a white guy who used to have dreadlocks, and he's very, very against racists. And he used to go to punk shows and get in fist fights with him and his friends would beat up the Nazis in their town because there were Nazis in the town that he lived in, and he talks about that publicly a lot. And
sounds like he's doing the Lord's work.
Well, you know, I mean, he grew out of the phase of wanting to be involved in violence. But he admits that that's part of his past and that his views haven't changed, right? And the alt-right, okay, he's friends with this guy who is named Kraut and T.
I've heard that.
Yeah. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So Kraut and T got attacked by the alt-right because of some like thing with this girl, Rage After the Storm. All these alt-right people try to say that Kraut and T doxed Rage After the Storm and got her fired from her job, when really all that happened was that some online blog who had published her decided to no longer publish her, but they had only published her 2 or 3 times and they had never paid her anyway. It wasn't her job. It was just like Kraut got this blog to not want to publish her anymore. Now, I don't know if that was a good thing of him to do or not, but
I mean, she's a Nazi, so.
Well, I don't know if she is a Nazi. I think that she's a young girl that doesn't really know what she thinks about a lot of things. I mean, you are Antifa. That a lot of people would say that means that you're a violent communist. I don't think that that's true about you after talking to you. But a lot of people would say that you have on your Twitter handle Antifa. A lot of people would say that means that you're a violent communist or that you're supporting violent communists. So I don't know if I want to say Rage After the Storm is a Nazi. She might be kind of racist. She might be kind of misguided, and she might take people. She might take some Nazis at their word when the Nazis say that they're not Nazis. Sure. But I don't know if I want to say that she's a Nazi because she is a young girl, you know?
Much more empathetic than I am. No, that's not the word.
Well, why do you think I have you on my show to talk to you? I'm not into Antifa, but I'm willing to talk to you. You start to get like this when you're in your 30s. You start to become. I mean, I remember what I was like when I was in my 20s. I was a crazy little fuck. You don't even want to know. So but that all said, Kraut ended up getting hounded by the alt-right, and he was really, really mad about it. And he's also kind of a mentally unwell guy. Like he has some sort of a psychiatric disorder. Like he might be schizophrenic, but he's certainly at least bipolar. And so he started getting really, really paranoid, and he created a private server designed to attack the alt-right and to gather information on them and compile. It was originally designed to compile information about how to argue against them, right? That's all they were doing. They were just like, okay, here's a list of people that we consider to be associated with the alt-right or alt-right ideas, and we want to have good talking points to argue against them. And he invited Jeff Holiday, who's the guy who's my friend, to come onto that server. And one of the reasons probably the main reason that he invited Jeff was because Jeff has a science background. Jeff actually has studied science at university, and Jeff's channel originally was about debunking pseudoscience. That was the thing that Jeff was started to be known for. So Jeff was in this server, and then Kraut started to lose his mind and started getting all crazy and trying to like do weird kind of creepy stuff that even the people that were in there, this is weird. I don't know if we want to be involved in this. And then there was a spy, and there was some people were releasing people's personal information. They were doxing them, and listing like their home address and stuff. They weren't sharing it publicly, but they were sharing it on this private server, right?
Mm.
And when that drama happened, I don't know if Andy Worski is friends with, I don't think he really knew Kraut, but Andy Worski and Jeff were friends. They were like actual friends. And Andy Worski was one of the people who started asking about this server. Somehow it leaked that this server existed, and then he asked Jeff, "Hey Jeff, do you know about this?" And Jeff lied to him a bit, even though they were friends. And then Andy turned on Jeff and basically all of Jeff's friends due to that server. And because Andy started publicly attacking Jeff and saying, Jeff is a liar, Jeff is a skeptic, and he's in the skeptic community, but I don't want to be part of the skeptic community anymore. You know, I don't want to be a skeptic. Fuck them. They don't trust any of the skeptics. And that's what Andy Worski started doing and saying, right? And when Andy did that, he got a lot of views. He got a bunch of new viewers. And then he started having alt-right guests on. And every time he got members of the alt-right on, he would get a whole bunch of views. And now it's like, it's not Andy Worski live, it's fucking alt-right live, is what it fucking seems like. But that all happened because
Has he replaced Red Ice Media?
Oh, Red Ice Media. Yeah, it's kind of. So that all happened. I don't think really there was a very specific reason that happened, but it's really a shame because, you know, there's a lot of conservative people and centrists and libertarian types who, you know, every time the people that I'm in contact with bring up Andy, they say that they do not approve of the direction that he's going with. Andy's co-host, Chris, stopped working with him. They don't work together. Oh yeah, he left. He was like, no. So like it's not like like Andy's digging his own grave in terms of his own reputation and what people are going to be thinking about him. I don't know if Andy's a racist. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't have any reason to believe either for or against Andy actually being some sort of a racist. I would guess he's probably mostly not. But, you know, at the same time, everybody is a little bit racist. Everybody does have racial prejudices. So,
an angel.
But like, you know, but like the thing is, anybody can hang out with the wrong crowd and be convinced to hate members of anybody. Like if you hang out with gay guys too much and all your gay friends hate straight people, you're going to start hating straight people. You're going to start, you know, that's just sort of what happens. Like, I don't know if you've ever been through a period where all your friends were gay guys, but like,
that's actually never happened to me.
Okay. Well, wait till you turn 21 and you start going out to the bars. It might happen.
Because I actually have a hard time getting along with other LGBT people.
Yeah, I largely did too, but then I turned 21 and I started meeting, I mean, granted, I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and there's a lot of cool gay guys in Brooklyn back last decade when I was 21. But when I got to the point where I was like almost only hanging out with gay guys, when I would hang out with straight people, they would seem like they were weird, you know, and it would, there's no word for it, but it was like I was kind of heterophobic, you know, it was kind of like that. So like, yeah, man, it sucks that there are these conservative people that are gravitating towards the alt-right, and that there's even a spokesperson for them seemingly, and that seems to be Andy Worski and his, okay, I don't want to say Andy so much necessarily because I don't really know what Andy says, but I know that he has people on the show that
he enables things.
Yeah, he certainly does. He certainly does. And if you were somebody that was considering being a, if you're a young person that was considering identifying with the alt-right, you could watch Andy Worski's show every day and feel like there's other people like you out there. You could look at how many people are watching, and you could say, look, there's people like this. Maybe I am going to be alt-right. And I think that that's definitely a shame. But one thing that I do not think is the solution is Antifa. I think that Antifa is making things worse. I think that Antifa is what's making people scared and want to join the alt-right. And I mean, why, like, I think that if you were to ask these people, why did you become attracted to this crowd, they would tell you that it's because of things like Antifa attacking,
I find that interesting because, like, I hear myself again.
Oh, sorry.
So I'm like, I find that interesting because what was I gonna say? Where was I going with this? I hope these people who are attracted to the alt-right because of Antifa realize how, racist and bigoted the alt-right is. Mm-hmm. Like, are they willing to just, are they really willing to cast out over 100 million people from America because of their race, just because they were afraid of some commies some over rowdy, shitty ass communists? Like that to me, that sounds pathetic.
Yeah, I agree too. I agree too. I think that the reason why the alt-right is appealing is because there isn't another well-branded identity out there for people that to sort of like fight back against Antifa and or at least the far leftist extremists who are actually committing violence. Like, when I've had people write me and accuse me of being alt-right and say that I'm alt-right, and I'm like, no, I'm not alt-right. And they're like, well, you certainly criticize Antifa a lot. What are you? And I'm like, what? I have to be a part of some, if I'm not Antifa to you, I'm alt-right. Like, I have to choose between the two. That's called a false dilemma logical fallacy that like, there's other things besides alt-right and Antifa. And I don't approve of either. Like, I think that both of them are screwed up. Sargon of Akkad coined a term that he's trying to popularize called liberalist.
That's become a meme on the left.
The liberalist thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's this new thing, and I don't know if it's going to take off or not. I'm not against it. I was listening to the arguments that he had for it, and I think it would be fair to call me a liberalist. Like, I don't think that, but at the same time, like, had you asked me if I was anti-fascist 5 years ago, I would have said, sure, I guess I'm Antifa. And then, 5 years later, I'll be like, oh, no, not that, not now, not that after I see what these people are actually doing, like, you can call something, but then what are people doing when they rally behind that thing? It's a very different thing. So. Yeah, I can understand that. I understand wanting a crowd to belong in, and it is very, very difficult being a young person. And I would just remind you, and then I should really go.
Okay.
To what's the best way to say this? Just ask the right questions. Like, when you're talking to a feminist and she promises you that she cares about the issues of men or black gay men or whatever, we'll be like, okay, well, if you care about those issues, do you still want to say that I have male privilege? You know, like, ask the hard questions. When you ask Antifa, well, how would we get to communism without violence? You know, or like, make sure that the things that you're worried about are the questions that you're asking. And if they tell you, oh, everything will be fine, we care about that, but you don't feel like they really answered your question, remember that there's a reason for that. And that reason is that they don't have the answer for your question. They might act like they do, but if they're not answering your question, it's because they can't. And that would, the same fucking thing would go for the alt-right, you know? Like, these young white guys that think that the alt-right, if you know, if there was going to be a white ethno state and they were going to get rid of all the racial minorities and put them in Florida or whatever they want to do, you would have to do that with violence. That's what they would have to do. But there's some fucking young dumbass white kids that think that somehow they could do that non-violently. Like, they actually think that. And I don't know why they don't just ask more questions and say, like, okay, well, how? You know, like, how would you do that without violence? How would you get people to move out of their homes to Florida without forcing them? You know, and I don't know, maybe the alt-right people tell them not to ask questions. I don't know what they say, but I just would recommend to everybody who's confused to ask enough questions, because I think that people would find that when you hear the answers from these people that are trying to lead people, well, I don't think that they're leading people in a good direction.
Yeah. When it comes to people like ideology and stuff, I do have my guard up a lot. So
that's good. It's good to have your guard up, but I think that these people are sort of the most dangerous when they I think that they are the most dangerous when it's not just that you have your guard up, but when you aren't, when you're associating with them, but you're not really challenging their ideas. So, like, for me, for example, I'm not gonna, okay, the liberalist idea sounds good to me, sounds good on paper. It, like, I wouldn't be opposed right now with calling myself a liberalist necessarily, but I'm also not going to start calling myself a liberalist. I would want to have a discussion with somebody and really hash this out and hash out why we want to call ourselves liberalists. And maybe there's going to be a liberalist.com, and I want to make sure that I want to read over every single line on all of liberalist.com, and I want to make sure I agree with all of it before I would ever call myself a liberalist. And I would always admit that I could change my mind and back out at any time. And I do that because I've been through way too many times in my life where I've started calling myself something, thinking it was something that I wanted to be a part of, and then it turned out that it went in a weird direction. And it was because I didn't ask enough questions. And so, yeah, I guess that's the point, is let your curiosity steer you. And I trust that you're a bright young man and that you'll make good decisions.
Yeah, that's what I hope.
Okay, I'm getting exhausted. I'm sorry that I rambled so much. I hope that was all right.
No worries.
Did you have was this a good conversation for you?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, because I like talking to you. I enjoyed having this discussion. I've been sleeping very poorly over the past couple of days, so I'm spacey and I knew I had a bunch of things to say, but it was hard for me to articulate myself because I kept going in different directions, like I'm stoned or something, even though I'm not. All right, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you very much, Taylor, for joining me.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and maybe I'll hit I'll give you a follow on Twitter, and maybe sometime you could come on another live stream and we could talk to some other people or something like that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, you could be like token not token black friend or anything, because I already have that, but no, like token person that identifies as Antifa, but I think is actually a nice person.
Okay, that works.
All right, have a good one.
You too.